guys.
Everyone, and welcome, Misfits one and all, to this episode of Midnight Ranting. Is the Quran scientific? Where tonight we are putting the holy text into the hot seat to see if it stands the scrutiny of peer review. So won't you come join the entire Skeptic crew tonight as we Midnight Rant.
We have someone who might.
Woo-hoo! That's right. I do want to thank all of you for joining us out there on the interwebs. If you're feeling fancy, please do not forget to like, follow, or subscribe, and then hit that bell icon so you can get reminders to join our live streams. We are a skeptic channel, including all of the schmucks that you see before you. However, at the back half of the show, we will be opening up the floodgates, or rather the open mic, so anyone can say what's up. However, we do have our special guest here tonight. We have both Pieter and Aron Ra, and we are
Aron
Ra.
Amy.
Aron Ra, like the god. And
Sun
we are
God.
actually going to hand it off to him so that he can say his thoughts on the topic. Aron Ra, the floor is all yours.
Oh, well, thank you. My expectation, surprise. What are you biting me for? My expectation was that my opponent would at least debate the topic of the question. And I was amazed at all of the circular reasoning where you just assume that, the Quran is God's word and that God wrote it and everything. And then there's not even a question. So you just do all of this essentially preaching from your religious conviction, and none of it at all remotely relates to science, scientific methodology, scientific principles, nothing whatsoever. So he just wanted to say that the Quran was a science, the science of humanity. To which I asked him, so the Quran is anthropology to you? What are you saying? The guy had no idea about the terms, what they mean, what scientific means, what science means, nothing. He was just there to preach.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much. And I do want to actually just put his channel up there. So if you are looking for more fabulous non-believer content, or also if you were just looking at the Quran or Muslim apologetics, well, Aron Ra has a fantastic Quran study show with, of course, a lovely skeptic bent.
I do need to make one point. I mean, my opponent this evening did say one thing that was correct. At all of his ranting, there was one thing I'm embarrassed to say that he did get right. In Surah 17:1, it talks about, blessed is. Let me just a second. Let me read it directly. Absolutely. Glory to him who made his servant travel by night from the sacred place of worship, Mecca, to the furthest place of worship, Jerusalem, whose surroundings we have blessed, to show him some of our signs. He alone is the all-seeing, the all-hearing. Now, when you read the rest of this, it's implying that Muhammad went from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then to heaven, and then back to Jerusalem, and then back to Mecca, all in one night. Now, assuming that heaven was no further away than walking through a door when you get to Jerusalem, so just take out all of the travel time to get to heaven from Jerusalem. If we take all that out, it still is a distance of over 900 miles, 1,486 kilometers. So Muhammad, to go round trip to those places would require that he be going faster than 150 miles an hour. So that part is in the Quran, but it doesn't say how he did it. He says he did it. It says he did it, but it doesn't say how. And he was correct. The Burak is not in the Quran. That's in the Hadith, which is the explanation of how did he do it. How did he travel 150 miles an hour plus in a single evening? So on that was the one point that he scored. He said that there's no scientific errors in the Quran. There's buttloads of them. There's no scientific accuracies in the Quran. It would be a fairer statement to make. But I just do want to concede that he made that one point.
But you still can't talk to ants, and
And you still can't talk.
You can't talk to ants.
Yeah. Well, you can talk to them all I want. I talk to the trees.
It's a one-way
They talk back.
conversation.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing how these texts have these, like the Bible's got a talking donkey and a talking snake. The Quran's got talking ants. I mean,
yeah, and talking lots of other things too. I mean, like Solomon was given the Dr. Dolittle power that he could talk to any animal that he wanted to.
Oh,
so he was given the Dr. Dolittle power, and he was given the power to command the wind, and he was given multiple genie to serve under him.
Oh,
yeah. Now all of these stories deviate wildly from the Bible that the Quran is based on, but then they have these other legends coming out of where that are entered into this. And then my opponent wanted to make a number of statements that were the things that I said that were in the Quran that he said, I just made up. He said that are not there. He mentioned, sexual slavery, that it's not there. And I gave up 2 examples of where it is there. And I do think it would be a good idea if he and I were going to have a written discussion. If he wants to tell me, okay, where in the Quran is this? I can just show him where that is. But I have had a very similar conversation yesterday with a biblical literalist where I had to show all these things. They're concepts that are linked together in a number of verses. So to support this point, I say, okay, well, the Bible says X. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And here it is. And then they read it. Well, that's not what it says. Yeah, that's exactly, look at it, read it.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it's saying. Well, it doesn't mean that. It means that you have some bizarre interpretation that's not even possible from the literature. No, it says it
reminds me of
say right there.
Yeah. Reminds me of an interaction we had on this channel about Pharaoh in the Bible. Similar thing where we pulled up the text.
When they can't admit that it says that, then I've seen it happen many times when it says the Bible doesn't say that, or that's not what the Bible says, and then you show them, and then it becomes that's not what the Bible means.
Yeah.
And can I ask you if you've ever heard the Muslim apologetic? Like James was just saying, we've had Muslims tell us that, well, the pharaohs weren't actually kings. They were pharaohs, and so
the Quran the
Quran uses the right word, and that really gives it up. And then I normally just ask him, okay, but what does pharaoh mean? But
basically a king. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to wonder what his definition of Muslim is. I mean, how do you distinguish a Muslim from a Jew, for example? Because the Quran identifies Jesus, Moses, Abraham, and Adam as Muslims.
It does.
Centuries or millennia before the Quran, before anybody was Muslim. And weren't these people already Jewish?
I think that was Savage.
Any historians show you that Moses, we grant that Moses actually didn't exist, but if there was a Moses, it would have been Jewish. And certainly Jesus was Jewish if there was a Jesus. I'm trying to find one that actually did exist to make a better analogy.
Well, then at one point you got savage and said, there were no prophets. There were no prophets after Muhammad or before Muhammad. There were no prophets while Muhammad was alive. There were no prophets. They're just people talking out of their ass saying, God told me this.
And it's such an annoying thing that I wish that I could get people to understand this. If a scientist or historian, if any academic just said shit was true because they wanted it to be true or because they believe it's true, they just say it as if it's a fact, they would be discredited as frauds. Only religious people get to do that.
Yeah.
Anybody else would call that lying.
And you could not pin him down on a scientific definition. And not only that, he absolutely conceded when very early on, and you called him out on it. He's like, well, the Quran is not a scientific textbook. And you're like, do you know what debate you're in?
That's the debate. You can see the debate.
Yeah.
Even James tried to get him back on that like several times. Like, can we go back to, is the Quran scientific? But he didn't want to play ball with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I just didn't know.
Which is a problem when you're debating people like that. If the moment they notice that they're up against someone who can actually come up with good evidence to prove that they're wrong, they will change the topic. While I was watching the debate, it reminded me of, and you've mentioned this, I think, on a couple of videos, Aron, when PZ Myers talked to, I think it was Hamza Thotsis in Ireland, where you were there, when they were talking about embryology. And he said, well, have you talked to an embryologist? And PZ said, I am one. Okay, let's talk about geology then.
Yep. And
that's it.
Yeah, and it was shortly after that I stepped into the conversation, and I'm sorry that I hadn't yet read the Quran. When Adnan, whatever his name is, said that the Quran doesn't talk about Noah, there's an entire surah named Noah. Noah comes up in like 20 different surahs. Yeah. And in most of those surahs, it's unambiguous that it's talking about a global flood. That it can only be talking about a global flood. If everyone in the world is a descendant of Noah, that was meant to be a global flood then. You know, because we're all descendants of Noah. So how else could that work?
They were just copying from Genesis. Of course it was a global flood.
I would have loved to have known that when Adnan said that stupid thing on video. I would have loved to have been able to call him out right away.
That's one of
my opponent's credit this evening. He also did what Hamza Sortsis did. He recanted right away when I called him out on the argument for isostasy, that the Quran says that the mountains are placed on the map of the earth. Because remember, the Quran is from a flat earth perspective. It's a map spread out on a table.
Which I didn't know, so thank you.
It's a map spread out on a table, and the mountains are placeholders. They're paperweights. And so the popular interpretation is that the mountains are supposed to prevent earthquakes, which obviously doesn't happen when you look at the Pacific Northwest, for example. Look at all the mountains that are not stopping the earthquakes. But it was important to notice that the lithosphere flows right under mountains.
Right.
The mountains don't impede them at all.
Mountains are evidence of subductions, though, which tends to cause earthquakes and seismic instability. Exact opposite.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite correct. But
they certainly don't do anything to stop it.
Yeah, they don't do anything to stop it.
And I don't have.
If anything, they're caused by earthquakes. It's plate tectonics that causes mountains to rise up.
Yeah,
plate tectonics also is what causes earthquakes.
Yep.
Yeah, similar phenomenon. And the stars are not weapons.
But there's something I just need to drill down on. It's something on this channel. I think that theists, especially creationists, very much look down on other animals. And he was going into this whole this whole ants thing, and then he tried to switch it to like cats and dogs, to like pretend like he wasn't understanding what you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
oh, so you have your pet ant that you walk and you communicate back and forth, and he barks at you, and then it's like, you know what he's saying.
Yeah, can you talk to your cat? Yeah, can you talk to your cat?
But he was pushed into a corner because you can't talk with ants.
You can't,
or they can't
echo.
talk back.
or they can't.
What happened there?
I think we got an echo from.
Okay,
But
so
I also just have to keep on personally thanking you, Aron Ra. That question about what would change your mind, that was me. And
yeah.
oh boy, did you bring his butt back on topic, because
Aron hit back on
man,
that a few times.
you wrote a thesis on something else. I don't know what it was. And then you were like, that's cool. But it was like, what would convince you otherwise? And of course, after the tooth was pulled, he said nothing. Nada.
yeah.
He already knows it's true.
I wish that I had the presence of mind to remember that not only was it the same argument as the same conviction as Ken Ham, but that he and Ken Ham can then stand there and face each other in a debate and both say that they know for absolute certainty that the other one is wrong.
Cannon battle.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
They just know. They just know.
Yeah, and so there's no way to defend it. So you would have to, if you're capable of logical thinking, you would have to realize that means that at least one of them doesn't really know what they know they know.
They can't both be right, but they can both be wrong, right, Aron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard to remember all of this. It's hard to have full presence of mind when you're in one of these things, especially when they're like this guy tonight. Was especially trying to be as irritating as he possibly can be, and that's what I see with a lot of these people. The facts do not matter. If they can be irritating and smile huge, then and you notice that if you start to get if they start accusing me of lying, well, I'm getting a little bit irritated at that, because that's insulting to do that. So he does something to be insulting, and then if I respond, you see the giant smile. He's achieved a goal. He said something rude and stupid and untrue, and I called him out for it, which means he somehow won that point.
I mean, well, he's saying he didn't like that you said he was being untruthful when he asserts things as fact that he doesn't have anything to base them on as fact. They're just baseless assertions.
Yep.
When you say it's fact, but you don't have anything to back it up, that's lying.
If you say it's a fact, you have to be able to show the truth of it right there.
I don't think he got that you were basically saying you're bullshitting. You are just pulling it from the seat of your pants because you start with the premise that it's true.
Yeah.
They can assert something as fact because it's in the book, and that is all they need. They don't have to demonstrate it. All they have to point to is that's where it says it in the book.
Yeah, the reason I agreed to this debate was, the guy says, the question given was, is the Quran scientific? I know where to go with that. I know what my opposition is going to try to do. And that they're not even going to be aware of what the topic is or what the criteria are. He's not even going to know how to win that. And the funny thing is when you let the believer choose the topic, they choose weaker topics, easier to defeat than I ever would have thought of. I would have been much more charitable to them if I chose the topic.
I do want to ask a question from the Sinister Purpose. Wants to know what your feelings of the Book of Mormon's Bronze Age submarines.
Having that conversation with my Mormon mother when I was barely a teenager and feeling remorse that my mother believed that my mother didn't have the skeptical ability to see through that. I was 14 and I could see through that. So and when they say that your brain doesn't fully develop until you're like 27, to me that makes perfect sense, because I was such an idiot throughout my youth. But I was still able to put that together where my mother could not.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
The Book
The
of
stars
Mormon
are not
especially,
weapons
because
to be used against angels. Remember,
Is that another thing that he said wasn't in the Quran?
I believe he did say that's
He
not in
said
the Quran.
the sun and the moon, where the sun doesn't go in a course, and so he said that wasn't in there. And then other people called him out on it, and he said, "Well, yeah, that's in there, but that's when it becomes that's not what the Quran says. That's not what the Quran means."
Yeah.
Yes, it says that, but really, if you take this other word in this other language, then it means this other thing. So you can assume that from our perspective, it only looks like that. But that's obviously not the way it was written. God, if you're God, you created the entire everything, and you write this book. Would you write it in a way that perfectly matches a flat Earth concept, or would you give them a more accurate, realistic concept?
Yeah.
And for God to be writing with the limitations of 7th century error, that's not a God. That's certainly not a scientific book.
It's like where the Bible says
what
the
stood
stars
out
will
to
fall
me
to the
is-
sky.
Yeah, well, what stood out to me is that, and this was I think it was in the Q&A, so and that's probably why there wasn't any follow-up. But he said that the moon and the sun, according to the Quran, each have their own orbit. They revolve around a certain orbit. What does the sun revolve around? Because that is something that he didn't point out, and I would love to have had that question.
The argument that I get from Christians on that point is that the sun revolves around the center of the galaxy, but then, of course, the entire solar system revolves around the center of the galaxy as a unit, still rotating in a way that would be imperceptible for anybody. So, again, we're talking about, is the book misleading?
Isn't, according to the Bible, the Earth the center of the universe?
It was the first.
How can then this?
It's not just the center of the universe; it's the first thing in the universe.
Yeah. So how can the sun revolve around anything if the Earth is the center?
Exactly. The Earth took 4 days to shape this one 8,000 mile wide ball of rock. But the entire everything of 78 billion light years of 11 jillion galaxies, all of that were sneezed out in a single moment.
Where it says, and he made the stars also. That's the entire rest of the universe other than Earth. Yeah.
And they're separate from the sun. So there's something different from the sun. And the Quran, of course, does the same thing. You have the sun and the moon, and they travel their course around the Earth, and the stars are fixed into the firmament to be used as missiles when angels need to ward off devils getting too close to the peak of the expanse, which is where God's hotel is.
The moment you brought that up, I got some terrible visions about the stars being lamps. And if people want to know that, they need to go to your channel and look for the last debate with Nadir.
Yeah, and wasn't that when we brought up the semen thing? I thought, I remember arguing for 2 solid fucking hours about the semen doesn't come from between the backbone and ribs. And Nadir's excuse was that if you lie on the floor and look up between someone's legs while lying on the floor, that from that perspective.
Yeah,
makes total sense.
Or if you were to look down through your chest, so behind your rib cage, then you would see your balls, and that means that your balls are between your rib cage and your backbone.
I could see Aron grinning like a Cheshire cat.
They're
when
like,
that
well,
came
didn't
up.
they get half of it right? They're like, it says the loins, just ignore the ribs, and the Quran's right. It's like,
Well,
yeah,
that's
but
like-
it says it comes from the ribs.
that's like tonight when he
Yeah.
said the Quran doesn't get any major scientific errors. It doesn't get anything majorly wrong. But if it comes from a god, why would it get anything wrong, right? Why would it just, it doesn't get anything majorly
Yeah.
wrong.
So when in 679, when Muhammad demonstrates for people standing around watching that he has torn the moon, right? That he's divided the moon into two. We're supposed to think that the justification of that is that in 1974, someone went to the moon and brought back a rock.
Thank you so very much for bringing that
Oh,
up.
yeah.
That is another one of my. I mean, look at this. Look at this. I have it right here. A rock came to Earth. Thanks. Yeah, that definitely means the moon.
Thank you,
split. Why
Mohammed.
didn't we think of that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Muhammad.
The people are standing around watching, and Muhammad says, "Behold, I split the moon." And now, if you wait until 1974, someone will go up there and bring back a rock, and that's
Yeah.
what I just did.
1,400 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did,
I don't-
ladies and gentlemen.
I will never understand the assumption of authority where you have to defend the authority, because that requires that you lie, that you come up with any rationalization. I don't want to believe in things I have to lie to defend them. I want to improve my understanding. That means I want the information to be accurate. And that's the fundamental difference between that guy and me.
And like you pointed out, the Quran, it's a dictate. You have to believe this or else. There's no you believe it because it's right. You believe it or else.
Yeah, and all of that bit about trying to teach us to be the best people we can be. Oh, fuck no.
not even close.
How much of the Quran do you have to read before this is just, it's horrible. The Quran, there's one thing I can say about the Quran. It's the only book I've ever read that makes the Bible look good.
That says a lot.
Now that's a Yelp review.
That's considering the source from the Bible. That's wow.
And there is a reason for that, because it came sooner. So you would hope, or more recently, so you'd hope they would at least retcon. In fact, that's why I think they do change so much, is because they're like, oh man, we learned that this, and this can't actually happen in the Bible. So maybe if we just change these things around, no one will notice. It'll be fine.
The shitty thing is that that's not even true. So the Bible was still talking about the earth being flat after the scientists of the day already knew that it wasn't flat. You have references in Daniel, for example, in Matthew, where you go up to the top of a tall mountain to look over all the kingdoms, or you go to the top of a tall tree. And I realize one of those is a dream. But even if it is a dream vision, it's still the same concept, where you go to top of a tall tree or the top of a mountain and you can see all the kingdoms, all of them, then that's a flat world, right? And so, and when Jesus says that he doesn't know when he's going to come back, but he hopes it's not going to be in winter time, is he not aware that there's another hemisphere of this planet, and when it's winter here, it's summer there? You know, apparently Jesus wasn't aware that it's a globe either.
No.
So you have all these stories that talk about the flat earth concept, and the Bible is just like riddled full of flat earth notions, even after they knew better. But then the Quran does not make those, the Quran didn't make those corrections. Centuries later, when virtually every Christian theologian had already adjusted their perspective to account for the sphericity of the earth, the Quran did not. The Quran is still painting the earth as if it's flat. Never
doubled down on the
flat
flat earth. Yeah.
But it describes, I mean, the flat, the map with the paperweights and the firmament and all of the details of the firmament and the sun and the moon going around the earth. Yeah, that's a flat earth perspective.
It's clearly a
thing
flat earth book.
Which surprised me is that it gets the how an embryo forms. They were slaughtering animals. They were slaughtering animals, so they would have had seen embryos in different stages, so you would know that it's not starting out as a blood clot, then bones start to form, and then flesh starts to form and cover the bones. You would never open up a cow and find a clump of bones that is yet to be covered in flesh. How do you get that wrong?
Well, yeah, and if you were to say covered in skin, yeah, okay, skin would come later. But I get what you're saying, and the way that Galen had described it was known to be in error shortly after that. But then it wasn't known to be an error when Muhammad wrote about it. So Muhammad was said to be illiterate. But I think they're misunderstanding the interpretation there. They said he was not read. So he's ignorant, maybe. He can read because he's a merchant and he's a successful merchant, and you would have to be an idiot to be a merchant and not be able to read. You certainly wouldn't be you couldn't be
successful. Yeah.
You couldn't be successful and be illiterate. So it wasn't that he could not read, it's that he did not read. So he could read what he had to, but he's like Trump. Maybe read at a fourth grade level, but he doesn't read.
It's not reading to learn.
And they don't seem to understand the notion of a book being ghostwritten or by another author. They're like, how did it come about? He couldn't read or write, and then a book just formed there. It's like, no, he had scribes write the book. I don't get the miracle at all. They seem to just pretend no other humans existed while the book it fell from heaven. And then
it took how long?
I've memorized most of it.
Yeah.
And it took how long did it take Muhammad to piece this together? Like one chapter at a time, all of them out of order, just like whenever he had the whim. And I like
he did say he's almost memorized it today in the debate.
When Aisha, his child bride, left something behind. She's in a caravan somewhere, and she like drops something and goes back to look for it. And,
one of her toys.
yeah, something like that.
A doll.
But now she's wandering alone in the desert because the caravan are completely thoughtless and inattentive, and they've just left a little girl alone in the desert because it just kept on going. And so one of her uncles happened across her and saw her wandering in the desert, so he escorted her back. But because he's a man and she's a girl and they're alone in the desert, well, now there's rumors and suspicion. And Muhammad believed the rumors. He believed that his little girl had cheated on him with her uncle. And
little games of Throny.
And when she complains that there's nothing she can do to defend herself because all these people are going to be completely unreasonable and everything she says is just going to be guilty anyway, right? Because nobody understands what the fuck reason is. Well, then Muhammad replies to her, says, "The Lord just spoke to me and told me you're innocent."
Oh.
Yeah. God couldn't talk to you beforehand. He had to have the little girl tell him that you're out of your fucking mind and nobody can reason with you. Okay.
Basically, before he's getting ready to maybe call her for her to be executed, as you would do with an adulterous spouse.
Yeah, well, he's sitting at the fire with her father and mother, who also suspect that she cheated on him.
With her uncle. Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine at the height of my youth and sexual depravity, would there be anybody that I could ever be with that would be worth, if I lived in this environment, like signing your own death warrant for sure. And there's no way you could be successful at this. I mean, you're just going to get caught. There's no way to not get caught, and you're going to be executed for a lewd act.
Because he's all loving, all moral.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine it, but I don't think I've ever met anybody that was that hot. That would be that much of a temptation.
Less than alone a family member.
I was.
Let alone a family member, an aunt or uncle. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So I mean, the whole thing is just I called it a redundant, repugnant compilation of constipation.
So I got two apologetics to ask you about,
What's that?
but I've memorized the Quran. Don't you understand?
Oh, yeah.
From cover to cover, I have
We heard that
memorized
today a
it,
little
and
bit.
in Arabic. So I mean, it's kind of
Arabic
evident.
is a much better language than English. It's much more godlike.
So the first argument I ever had over Islam and the Quran. I'd never read the Quran. We're going back a lot of years now, like 30 some odd years. And I'm working in a convenience store with this guy who from Somalia. And he tells me that I am not an educated man.
Oh.
It doesn't matter how much schooling I've had. It doesn't matter what I've studied, nothing, because I've never read the Quran. And he's only read the Quran. But that makes him educated because he read the only book anyone ever needs to read.
Why would you read anything else, right?
Right. So I'm not educated and he is. So he asked me what my problem with the Quran is. And I don't want to get into it too much because I don't know much about the Quran, but already I know that it's based on the Bible. And if there's that thing about if you build your house on shifting sand or whatever, you build it on a crap foundation, then it's going to fall. So the Quran is based on the Bible. The Bible's utter crap. That much I knew. And I said, well, I don't really want to get into the depth of it right now, but just if I could just be really summary about it. And I'm trying to make the simplest argument that I possibly can. I say, that my problem with the Quran is the same as because it's built based on the Bible. And my problem with the Bible is that, it doesn't mention dinosaurs. And what I mean by that is that it has an entirely disparate fable that is not matching anything we actually know to be true. But I don't want to phrase it with
reality.
So because I'm talking to somebody who doesn't know. So I put it as simply as I possibly could. Doesn't mention dinosaurs. And he doubles over laughing at me for my stupidity. And I remember we're working in a convenience store. He and I are both clerks in a convenience store. So somebody else walks in and he's just hysterical. He's crying. He's laughing so hard. And he points at me, talking to the other person, goes, he believes dinosaurs.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And the other customer.
Can't you be as educated as him?
Yeah. This other guy.
He thinks dinosaurs are fake. Yeah.
The other guy was not from Somalia. The other guy was not raised reading only the Quran. The other guy was American. He was like 50 years old. He was obviously college educated. And this guy became alarmed that the guy's looking quizzically at him and not me. And other people were coming in too. And so he was confused that all of these people don't get the joke. And so he looks at them and he says, "Did you believe dinosaurs?" And so the bearded 50-year-old college professor looking guy says,
From
well,
Berkeley, right?
We know they existed. And then the guy I was talking to, his humor turned to horror when he realized that everybody, like Americans, believe dinosaurs
existed.
Because he thought that was a children's fable. And then I told him that I can take him to the museum labs. I can take him on digs. I can take him on paleontological digs where he can find the fossils himself to prove that they are real. And he was disoriented.
Even if Satan is planting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's disoriented and confused. But remember, this is the guy that said that I am not an educated man.
Because you haven't read the Quran.
I had not read the Quran. I had never even imagined reading the Quran back then.
In fairness, did you look him up and see that in irony in the dictionary it had his Pictionary?
No, there are many other candidates that take that spot.
Oh, Aron, I guess Aron didn't read the Bible because clearly the Bible talks about dinosaurs. Behemoth, he got a big tail. That's got to be a dinosaur, right?
Except that it doesn't say his tail was big. It says his
Yeah.
tail moveth like a cedar. So, so
Yeah.
it's not.
And they also confuse. They also confuse the cedar they know in North America with the one that is in the Middle East, which is an entirely different tree.
It's a spindly looking tree that looks exactly like an elephant's tail. It's just upside down. So when you see it in the wind, it moves like an elephant's tail. So
I think Noah would have brought babies on the ark. He would have been smart enough to figure that out.
I saw the argument that Noah was keeping cryogenic eggs, and that's how he was stocking everything. Of course, there's no explanation for what is the surrogate mother for gestating these cryogenic eggs.
Well, even if you grant them that all those animals were on the ark, the moment they get off the ark, God says, now you can eat meat. So the lions are going to go after the 7 sheep that were on there. So those are gone. The dinosaurs, they probably fed on each other, which is why most of them went extinct. And then the meat eaters died off because there was no meat left. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Don't forget, there's no plants at all. There's no plants at all.
No.
So they come off the ark.
So plant eaters would.
It's all salted
plant eaters
earth.
would be happy to be eaten because they would have died anyway.
Unless God just magically made it so that the salt didn't affect the ground and all the plants were safe.
The flood would have destroyed soil horizons.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to plant things.
It's totally unworkable.
Yeah, everything about it is unworkable. But what happens when you have a deep-seated psychological need to believe this story? So you have to find a way for the story to be true because you need the authority of it. I've had people admit to me that they know it's not true, but they believe it anyway.
See, now that's weird to me. And yet I guess it's just maybe a coping mechanism. Like, I really need this to be true because it appears that we're all going to die.
I think it's the power of indoctrination. If you from a very young age are taught that is what happened, and I've met people who have told me this, ex-Christians who have told me this, that it is part of their identity. So the moment they realize it's wrong, now part of their identity is wrong. And that is the problem that they can't cope with. And this is why they keep believing it, even knowing that it's wrong, because what are you going to do? What are you going to replace it with?
Yeah.
It's impossible to replace an entire identity built around what you were taught as a very young child.
Yeah.
And just accept that the scientists had it right all along. They had it right all along. What are you supposed to do? Say, I've been wrong all these years, folks. Don't listen to me. You can just read the science books. They got it all right.
And I actually, another Muslim apologetic, I'm just throwing out there. You guys all just come from the Christian worldview. That's all you can think about. You need to understand the Islamic worldview of the Abrahamic religion.
In Sahala.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you also brought up Hamza. I have been recently talking with him, and a fantastic discussion on science. He was basically trying to tell me that, look, you believe the moon landing on testimony that people have told you, just like I believe the Quran on testimony that was given to you, and thus we're actually on equal footing. What do you guys think?
I watched it live. Sorry. I watched the moon landing live. They got me out of bed in front of the TV. I got to watch it live. So no testimony. Well, obviously it was on TV, so it was CGI.
I watched it too.
Which we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
You guys watched it even though you're both 27? That is amazing.
I think that's like when Ken Hovind, when he says, like, oh, you can't see the animals change, so you have to believe it happened. So you have a religion just like I have a. It's like the same kind of thing that if you can't watch it happen with your own eyes, then it's the same as faith.
Yeah. Anything you believe.
While they're proposing a story they never saw happen with their own eyes, no one saw God create anything.
Yeah.
Not even Adam, because he was put to sleep.
But the Magic Book of Fables was supposedly written by God. That's why it got everything wrong.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to have to bail, y'all.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much, Aron.
Before you do, would you like to have just a final word, a final shout out?
What am I going to shout out?
Well, I am just going to send everyone back there and remind everyone that Aron Ra is running the best skeptic Quran studies out there. He is wrapping it up. The lovely Mobarak, who comes on here a lot, you can also see him on there, and produced by our fantastic Peter. But I just want to say, Aron, thank you so very much. I really think that debate was awesome. It was brutal, but
I have to say thank you also to Aron, because I said before, Aron's one of the main reasons that I was able to get out of Christianity back in 2014, coming across his videos and the writings that he had put out. And it was just very powerful. And it was one of the key things that led me down the path to coming out of Christianity. So thank you, Aron.
I have to say I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I want to add something too, Aron. I joined Quran lessons far too late, I think. And knowing that there are only a few episodes left, what I'm going to miss is the amazing group of people you've gathered around doing the Quran lessons. What a lot of people don't know is that...
You mentioned Mobarak. Mobarak's got talent. I would love to see him do another stuff.
He is.
He's a great guy, Mobarak. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a few that they have the background information. They need a channel with an audience.
Mobarak is going to join me whenever I've got a Muslim guest on as a co-host, and he's going to help me out when we're hosting debates between different people that are debating a Muslim apologist. So Mobarak will still have a platform.
Yeah, and I owe everything. I owe everything to Buraz Bogey. If he hadn't stepped up and made notes and everything and held the show together, certainly wouldn't have gone this way.
Yeah, and what I wanted to get out is that sometimes the show will run for maybe 4 hours, sometimes even longer. Oh, wow. And then after the show, the people of the panel will stick around sometimes for an hour, 2 hours. They're an amazing group of people, and I really want to thank you for letting me join in and meeting these people. They're truly amazing people.
My genuine pleasure. This next one that we do on I think it's the 27th. We're going to have to rush through. I always have to bail as soon as we're done. I have to jump into something else. I have a board meeting with American atheists. Immediately, it's 2 hours after we begin. So we've got to cover 4 surahs. They're short surahs, but we got to cover 4 of them in 2 hours, and then let me get to the board meeting.
How do you fit in time for the human sacrifices?
Here's an idea. Here's an idea, Aron. If we don't get it done in 2 hours, we've got an extra episode.
Well, that's true. We could do that.
Extend it.
All right,
I don't think anyone would be upset about that. Thanks, Aron.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night, guys.
Thank you so very much, Aron Ra.
The fabulous Aron Ra.
That's right. The amazing, the fantastic, and the fabulous. And so are his cat and dog. I just want to put that out there also.
As my dog coughs up a hairball.
Her, Stephanie.
All right, bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Okay, catch you
And
later, Aron.
Thank you
Good night,
so
Peter.
very much. I will say we are just going to send one more shout out. You should be looking at all that wonderful non-believer content, and really, why aren't you already subbed to the fantastic Aron Ra?
You're not an atheist if you're
And-
not an Aron Ra subscriber. That's mandatory.
And can I point out there's one
Absolutely.
show on Aron's channel that isn't Aron's show, that is actually Lelandra's show, and that is Matter of Fact Science, which is which is one of the shows that I'm really happy that I'm allowed to produce,
Okay.
where Aron has some really awesome people on. So we've had Sean Carroll on, we've had Ken Miller, Donald Johansson, the guy who famously found Lucy. So that is a show that I think no one should ever miss, because you learn so much new things in these conversations, because Aron always comes up with questions that haven't been asked yet. So does Lelandra and the people who are in the chat. So that's an amazing show.
With the wonderful Lelandra Ra, Aron's wife.
Mm-hmm.
They make a really a great team together. The way that they do their shows and everything, they really do.
And all right, we are almost gonna have a little reset. What we are going to do, actually, in a few minutes, is open up the floodgates, or rather the opening mic, and we will give everyone the chance to say their mind about their topic with an opening and closing statement.
That's right, Germania.
Atheist or theist, liberal or conservative, come as you are. It's not on my sheets. Just please. I'm trying to wash with the flags. I'll get you a Target. I do have to just send some love out there to our Patreons at patreon.com/Amy Newman, which helps us make even more fantastic skeptical content, including those like us from the Atheist Roundtable, which you can find at tart.live, as well as Ian Davenport.
Thanks, Ian.
Level up in the skeptic community, as well as a grumpy old cuss, while we listen to all of these creationist claims and three princesses in
Grumpy.
Diana Smith, thank you so very much, a grumpy old cuss, and Diana.
Thank you, Diana.
The resident archaeologist of the house, we are sending love to Pat Lowinger.
Thank you, Pat.
Who also does many fantastic episodes of Talk Skeptic to me, as well as having his own channel at youtube.com/BiddyBuddha_.
Wonderful show, yep.
We are asking for a little bit of empirical evidence, not a lot, but Dale Pastel and the whole skeptic community here
He's
tonight,
known for that, yeah.
That is kind of what we're asking for, and we also are asking, why does the Quran seem to claim that it's a flat earth? It looks round. I don't know. It just looks round to me.
The stars are weapons to be used against demons. Call Bob Larson.
And that was another thing. You can call it demons, but jinns are genies. Yeah. They're a whole mix of all this other stuff that I would sure love to have evidence for, including the lead hyena.
You get plenty of anecdotal evidence, Amy. Plenty of anecdotal evidence. Thank you, Scott.
I mean, look, who doesn't love hearsay? I mean, come on. He say, her say, whatever it is.
A book says a thing. How about that? A book said so.
It really is a book
hey.
says a thing. But, you know, it's their special holy book.
The Bible said it. I believe it. That settles it.
And speaking of, we do a fantastic Bible study on this channel, a skeptic Bible study. Regos helps us get a little thespian. We kind of, you know, say, thou shalt stab an interfaith couple in the chest. Or at least that is what it says. At last,
thou shalt
but
stone
certainly
Amy.
not least, we are sending love to Rachel.
Rachel!
Who is reminding us, of course, that the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all of these books would never endorse slavery. That would be silly. Never. Perfect morality, so it can't be
The
changed.
good slavery, like the Quran,
slavery.
the good sex slavery, the good sex slavery.
And I just want to send all of the love out there at our Patreon, at patreon.com/Amy Newman. Sending love
That
to
it is,
our
Megan, that it is.
Patreons, sending love to the people in chat, our mods, and viewers like you. But we are actually going to, I think, go in reverse order. Pieter, we have actually been midnight ranting so far. We're about to go into the open mic, but before we do, I would like to give you a chance. Just generally speaking, you know, is the Quran a scientific textbook?
Oh,
Nope.
That's a hard no.
None of the holy books are. And the reason why we know this is because of debates like this. Because when you see someone like Aron bring up a certain point and then addressing that point, there is no way that they have a scientific explanation for the obvious error that is in their book. And there's no science to be found in the book. It would be a first if someone came up with something to keep my dog still. So it would be a first if someone came up with a holy book that actually had scientific facts in it. But it usually doesn't happen because the people who fall, I think, for religion are the people who are not all that interested in science or the scientific method because it usually proves them wrong.
Damn near every time, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Pieter. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to
Peter.
James. James, I mean, we're midnight ranting.
That we are.
I can't believe I'm asking this question, but is the Quran scientific?
Well, I mean, of course it's not scientific. It, as we talked about today, gets so many things wrong, gets so few things right. It's a holy book of similar stock of the other holy books. They're clearly the work of ancient man, and it is what it is. It's the Bible, all the holy books of the time. They're the work of ancient man. The Quran is no different, and there's really no reason, no distinction that makes the Quran any different from any other work of ancient man. Take it for what it is, take it for the literary work that it is, but if you're thinking about gleaning any type of great scientific knowledge from it, I think you need to look elsewhere. Like a science book. Thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much, James. And all right, before we get there into the open
Newman.
mic.
Do it to me.
Oh, baby. Is the Quran scientific? No. That's because the Quran is not a scientific text. It's a quote-unquote holy book, meaning it was written and inspired by men. And without the peer review process that drives science, which is what science is, not a body of knowledge, but rather the methodology of how we discern fact from fiction. In the simplest form, it's not about the science books filled with facts. Even if they were all burned to ash, slowly but steadily, we would rediscover every fact and build new books up with the same exact descriptions. The speed of light would still be the speed of light. Though religious books don't offer the same thing. Instead, they make claim after claim, which get labeled miracles. However, what they really are unfalsifiable claims. In fact, the Quran claims that God created men first and women from them. However, we know women actually came first. It claims Solomon can speak to birds or ants like a Disney fairy tale, and that there aren't animals like insects with more than 4 legs. Who knew? Or a good biology lesson. Do you remember in gym class learning semen, surprise, surprise, doesn't come from between the loins and the ribs? As the Quran will have you believe. And of course, the moon was not split in half. So when someone asks me, is the Quran scientific? The answer is no. No, 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 no. Just like every other holy book in history. Though I'm open to changing my mind, just get that beautiful butt back in the lab. Thank you.
Sounds like a hard no. Like not
Look,
just a no, that's a hard no.
I am really just done with the notion of prophets. That is my hashtag on here, is hashtag prophets do not exist. And they could call him the last prophet, but as Aron Ra pointed out on the debate,
there was never
no first prophet, no second prophet, no last. Ain't gonna be no more unless you can provide us with evidence. Though we are actually about to roll into the open mic. In fact, we already have David Pneff hanging out by there. So what do you think, guys? Open it up? I think it's time to have some fun because we are Midnight Ranting. Is the Quran scientific? And we're going into the open mic. What is up, David? I hope you're doing well. And of course, the question of the night, is the Quran scientific?
Well, hello, Amy Newman, and thank you guys so much for having me on. Much love to you and much love to the audience. I just moved, so I hope that I know my lighting isn't that great, but I guess this is what I'll have to do for now until I get better lighting. But here is what I've listened to. I've listened to a lot of Muslim apologists and their claims that the Quran miraculously predicts science that was discovered much later. And here's what I really want to know is that why doesn't the Quran give us anything useful? Like there's no information about cell theory. There's no information about germ theory, nothing about bacteria, nothing about viruses or how to prevent diseases or how to vaccinate, or none of that is actually in the Bible or in the Quran or in any other holy book that was purported to be written by a prophet. Everything that we have from the Quran and from the Bible are very much poetic, very vague, and was always somehow discovered after the fact. There is not a single incident, from what I know, not one example in all of science where a scientist read the Quran and said, let's see if I can test that, and then went out and proved it based upon the Quran. Not one. So is the Quran scientific? The answer is no, it is not. And there is actually one thing that I wanted to discuss because this is something that I make in a video on. Muslims claim that the Quran miraculously predicts the Big Crunch, which is one possible scenario for the end of the ultimate fate of the universe. And as recently as 2021, there was a video posted just a few months ago that I'm going to be responding to. Unfortunately, that is wrong. And so if Muslim apologists want to use this verse to say that the Quran predicts the big crunch, this would be a scientific blunder, not a scientific miracle. So that's just my rantings for now.
Woo-hoo! Couldn't agree more. And thank you, David. Yeah, the Bible and the Quran, they both get so much wrong that the notion of a holy book just seems very silly when they just can't give us anything really useful. They give us platitudes, but it's not the germ theory of disease. They got pi wrong, so they can't even do that. So, but
and it's not just pi. You can look at some of the lists from like the Book of Esther and the Book of Chronicles and the Book of I think Nehemiah, and you can do the math yourself, tally up everything, and you see that the Bible gets it wrong. It's an order of magnitude off. It's not just pi. It's a whole bunch of things as well. And if you want, I can demonstrate that.
David, if you would have read the Bible, you would know that the Bible got pi right. They just measured from the inside of the bowl, not the outside of the bowl. So therefore, if you measure from the outside, then the Bible got it right.
Which is why I could never have a Christian girlfriend, because if you can't get pi right, then what's the use?
Hey, at least it's not Sharon Weiss.
Woo-hoo! That's true. And I'm sending love.
Thank you, David.
David, we will stick around for the open conversation. We're just going to give everyone their openers down the line, get everyone in. But Grr Mania, what is up? We are Midnight Ranting on Is the Quran a Scientific Text? What are your thoughts?
Oh, such a hard question to answer.
Indeed.
But no, I would wager that the answer is no. It's not scientific at all. I don't know much about the Quran. I have tried to read it, but it was very much like the Torah or the first 5 books of the Bible on steroids. So it's hard for me to read, which that could just be a me problem. But one thing about the Quran, there's quite a few things I have a problem with, but there is a moral issue I have with it, this just being one of them. According to the Quran, if I remember this correctly, or at least it's the case with the majority of Muslims, though not all, it's okay for a man to have multiple wives, but not okay for wives to have multiple husbands. And again, that may be an Islamic thing and not necessarily a Quran thing, if that makes sense. To which I say that tells me that it's pretty obviously that it was written by other men and not women, because it's very unfair in that regard. But as far as the Quran goes, splitting the moon.
Can women write anyway? I mean, come on.
Can't really teach your livestock to write, so I'm skeptical.
Yeah. What's the point?
No, well, as far as the moon being split by Muhammad, it seems like if that were the case, that's an extraordinary claim. It seems like we would find extraordinary evidence for said claim, but so far we have not, and I would wager that we never will find evidence for such a claim, because more than likely it never happened. The other thing is, and I don't know the exact verse, nor do I know the exact wording, but somewhere in the Quran, it does say something about rainwater is pure, which is not the case. Rainwater has a lot of, and I could be mistaken on my terminology, but a lot of toxins and acidic nature to it. So
acid rain.
Just ask the Brita Corporation. They'll tell you.
But yes, so the fact that we have no evidence of the moon splitting in two, especially by a self-proclaimed prophet.
The Quran said waters don't mix like the salt and fresh water don't mix. I think that's another thing that they said in relation just to water.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you for that. And so, the Quran, it is a book that I do want to read just out of genuine curiosity. And also, well, it's just, it is fun to read these ancient holy books just for the sake of it. And also because it is nice to know what the quote unquote opposing side thinks and why they think a certain way. And obviously I have no problem with someone who is Muslim or Christian or whatever, but I do feel like a lot of theists or a lot of religious people need to realize that their holy books are not science books, and they're not even philosophical books, because if you follow the philosophy or theology of these books, you'll come into a lot of problems, both philosophically and socially and morally as well. But anyways, that's all I have to say. And Amy, I appreciate you letting me on. I always enjoy coming to your streams. I think you definitely have the best midnight streams because you're the only one who does. And
I'll say it over and over. Flattery gets you everywhere.
Before let me just say this is the last thing. The first time I saw Amy Newman was in a debate on Modern Day Debate, and your opening was so freaking solid. I thought, okay, I don't know who this person is, but I am subscribing to them. So I had to look. Well, actually, no, I think your channel was linked in the description box. But either way, I've been a fan ever since, and I appreciate you and everyone here. And that's it.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you so
Appreciate
very
it.
much, Grr. It was lovely to have you on. And stay around for the open discussion. I do want to say, before we keep on going down the line, if you are a theist, a Muslim in particular, feel free to join the stream. We won't mute you or any.
She doesn't bite.
I don't bite unless you're into that. But we want to give everyone as much time as they can to accurately describe and defend their position. We don't want to attack. I'll share a metaphorical cup of coffee, a good Arabic cup of coffee with some caramel in it. We'll break bread, have some conversations with the skeptics. We're sending love because we are Midnight Ranting and going right down the list. We got Leophilius, Sinister, and Mark. And then we are having open conversation. But Leophilius, we are Midnight Ranting on, is the Quran scientific? What are your thoughts?
Welcome, Leo.
I don't know really anything about the Quran because one of the most boring things I have ever made an attempt to learn in my life was Islamic theology. And I'm not trying to be like insulting or offensive when I say that, because I tend to find that theology in general is boring, but Islamic theology especially really bores me. Is the Quran scientific? I think that depends on what we mean by is it scientific. If we mean in like the sense, is it trying to convey accurate scientific information? I would say no. If we meant is it a text on some subject in science, I would say no. If you're supposed to mean that it's a compendium of scientific discoveries or principles, then again, I would answer no. It's like most of these ancient religious texts. It's just another historical document that tells us a lot about the culture of these periods in time and of these regions around the globe. And they don't really seem to convey very accurate science. A lot of them don't really seem to talk about science all that much at all. And it seems that from my experience, the claims that any of these religious texts have made accurate predictions about science, that they've said things that we didn't discover were true until hundreds of years later, seems to always be based in oftentimes radical interpretations of whatever that text is saying. And when you go look at more literal translations of what that text would actually be conveying in terms of semantics, you find that there really isn't any direct implication to any sort of anything that could be considered scientific. Just to give an example, you hear a lot of Christians say that when the Bible says that God stretched the heavens, and that that means that space-time is expanding. But when you look at what it means in a more literal sense, that doesn't seem to be what's getting implied. So this requires a lot of deep interpretation to really pull that concept of, yeah, this told us stuff that we didn't confirm for, hundreds of years in order to get that out of it. And so I just don't think it's accurate to say that these are scientific texts.
Yeah, nobody read the Bible and said, "Ooh, I bet the universe is expanding." Nobody figured that until science came along and found out that it was. Then they said, "Oh, look, it's in the Bible."
And I will say, it's not a point against the Bible or the Quran, but the fact that God could have made those books more interesting, I feel like is just, a point against him. Could have made it more interesting with, better information, but he didn't. It seems to be extremely dry and filled with, chewed gum. But we're sensitive.
Amy, it's the stuff that interests God. It's not
exactly
for your interest. It's what interests him. So.
You got to understand the 4D chess. But yes, thank you so much, Leo, for joining us tonight. And we'll be heading into the open conversation. Stick around. Only got 2 more left.
Stick around.
The fabulous, sinister porpoise, which sounds like a dolphin which wants to get in trouble. Nonetheless, I hope you are having a fantastic night tonight. And is the Quran scientific?
I don't know. But I do have a point on how they could make it more interesting. Maybe they could include a story about people at the Tower of Babel praying to get their language not confounded and then go building Bronze Age submarines. I mean, it worked for another religion.
Fun, right?
I mean, it would be just as believable. Where is my camera? Let me make sure I'm not looking at the right thing. And let me take something out. Give me a second.
I have a question. Where's your hat?
Oh, hold on.
There's no hat.
It's true.
What is a sinister porpoise without a hat?
Give me a second.
Yes, that is a trademark.
I will say, while she is doing that, the link to join the StreamYard is pinned. We're about to go into open conversation after we get her and Mark, but you can still join us as we're going to have like a good hour conversation on the Quran scientific.
There she goes. Okay.
Now we have the sinister porpoise. Without a hat, it's just not real. Just saying.
It's like a Hoven without SpongeBob.
Or a Hawaiian t-shirt, right?
Or Hawaiian t-shirt.
Anyone who has known Sinister Porpoise for a while knows that the hat is mandatory, and it's always a different hat. So that was one thing.
Anyone who's been on this panel knows that fun is mandatory. we enforce it here.
I forgot the cigarette holder and the opera gloves.
Yeah, see? You need to prepare. It's good to see you, though.
And all right, now that we are, I would say, properly accessorized, is the Quran a scientific document?
Define scientific.
You're on mute.
But, wait, am I still on mute?
Oh, no. Now you're good.
But no, it's in no way scientific. I remember trying to read the Quran a long time ago, but problem is, as far as Islam is concerned, they say to read the Quran properly, you have to study Arabic.
I find that apologetic very weak. I find that almost funny that the God, to me, it's a little nationalistic, which, every nation does it, unfortunately. Nonetheless, it seems very silly. It feels like God should have been able to translate into every language. But hey, that's just us humans not understanding his 4D chess.
Yeah, it's as if gods only speak one language. Usually the one of the people writing down the words, because God can't write.
Well, let's be fair. He kind of took the idea of requiring a single language from the Catholic Church, because it was Latin at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. It doesn't sound like you bought it. Didn't seem. Did you watch any of the debate? Would you buy it at all? Huh?
Unfortunately, I got into the end of the debate.
Oh, that's okay. If you got the
Because
end of the debate, as much as I love, and you all should check out the fantastic modern day debate. Oh, it was brutal. It was fairly savage, if I do say so myself. I don't normally.
It
it's
definitely
back
was
and forth,
savage.
but man,
and
he forgot his
Aaron
boxing
gave it
gloves
to
or
him.
something. Yeah.
and what I heard was just like very much dodging the question. Like Aron Ra was going on about it. It's like, oh, is it scientific? No, it's not a science book. It's like, well, then why are you?
Well, he gave that away at the very beginning, which I don't think that he. It's one of those things that theists say so often that the only time it backfires is when you are in a debate about it. Like, oh, it's not supposed to be a science textbook. The debate about is if it's a science textbook, right? And I feel like that did not hit him in the face until after he said that out loud. The quiet thing out loud.
It's not meant to be a science book, but it's still true, Amy.
Still true, in like the metaphorical sense that none of the actual Muslims believe. But hey, sending love to all of our theist brothers and sisters, and thank you so much, Sinister, for joining us. We're about to go open conversation. All we got is Mark left.
Thank you.
We're sending
Welcome
love. We
aboard,
got
Mark.
the whole non-believer. We got the skeptic crew. As
The whole
always,
cadre
we are
of
Midnight
misfits here.
Ranting. That's right, and we do love our misfits. On is the Quran a scientific text? Mark, is that where you get your biology, physics, and chemistry from?
I think Mark is an avid reader.
Avid.
Of the
No,
Quran.
I haven't read that much of the Quran. I was telling that to Randolph Richardson. I haven't studied the Quran that much. So, I mean, people have talked about, we're obviously saying no. I think the people, I think Mania and Leo were saying it depends on what your definition of science. I think what Muhammad, to be fair on him, was actually arguing are the stories in the Quran scientifically accurate? I think that's what he was basically aiming for, and misfire kind of thing. But it's hard to say what was in his mind. But this topic, they don't seem to get, and focusing on this debate, what he didn't get was that when we talk about science, it isn't just something written in a book. It isn't just sort of things that are written down, and that science books aren't just, well, it's science because it's in that science book. That's not how science operates. And Aron Ra did a really good, covering, hey, that isn't science. It's a methodology or a series of methodologies that allow us to determine the most accurate models of reality, basically. Some things absolutely bewildered me, especially in the opening. I don't know if anybody else caught it. I was actually pretty early on seeing the debate, and he was talking about algorithms and object
computer science.
Right, it was computer science. Now, algorithms are just a sort of a step-by-step instructions that we process data with. They're not. You're not finding algorithms in any religious book. You could apply algorithms to almost anything. Like you could simulate a bee's flight or the way that a flower grows as an algorithm. And so he's trying to use that to say, hey, well, the universe has algorithms. It's like, no, they're kind of something we apply to data. We don't, it was a really weird thing, and I don't get the significance of object-oriented programming because that's got really nothing to do with what the subject was about. Just because you can apply an algorithm to something doesn't mean it's scientific. You can apply an algorithm to play a game. It's not scientific. It's just an algorithm. Baffling as to what that had to do with anything. I think he avoided questions incredibly so. He gish galloped while he did it. So basically, he was asked a question, he would avoid it and then bring up 5 other topics that had nothing to do with the question. It was really quite odious the way that he kept doing this. And I could tell it was sort of irritating his opponent, which, as Aron said, it was his intention, and I kind of think that's true. I think he was really trying to provoke Aron, and to his credit, he was very calm, a lot calmer than I've seen him in the past in these kind of debates. So well done to him for not sort of, really grabbing at that bait and sort of losing his temper with this guy who was, I do think that he was a bit trying to bait him.
With the smirking and
Sure, and just the sort of the things that he was saying seemed to sort of be directed at things that in the past I think Aron would have gone, that's ridiculous and gave him a serve. But this time he sort of, he did a really good job. I was really impressed. I loved the couple of parts that I loved. I loved when they were talking about where semen comes from, that he said it was next to someplace hard. I just want to bring that up because that was hilarious. And the chat talked about
Mark, this is why we bring you on the channel.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? Like in between something.
Well, to be fair, that's 100% accurate.
Right, but it's a bit of a
something hard
reading into it. It was really funny. I loved when he seemed to think that mountains prevented earthquakes, that somehow they pinned the earth down.
They hold them really tight.
And Aron's like, no, they don't. And he's like, oh, they don't? And it's like, no, they don't. What are you talking about? In fact, mountains are usually along fault lines. You've got no idea. Like you hear these things in, your religious circles and you just outright believe them. We've all seen that before, saying, well, the whale has a 15 foot, it's just not
15 foot. Exactly.
And I loved when he went on about the popularity of the book, won wars and things, so it had to be true. Why does a popular book have to be? Harry Potter's a popular book. It's like,
and that's true.
Well, obviously, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a heretic to
I mean, are you debating that London doesn't exist here, Mark? I mean, absolutely. Harry Potter is true.
Yeah, and I was the one that brought up the question about splitting of the moon, and the shifting of goalposts was insane. I have to bring it up again because from Muhammad splitting the moon to, we brought back a rock. Like, how did you tell that Muhammad did that? Like, it's beyond belief the amount.
It said Muhammad split this on the rock.
Yeah. Obviously, he carved his name like Zorro when he did it. Yeah.
He split it. He split it into very unequal parts. And that last details just isn't in the book, but it is still split in two.
Well, I mean, but that wasn't the only rock on the moon, right?
It wasn't.
Like, split it up in, like, do sushi chopping or something? Or what happened there? Like, and how can you tell that was one of the rocks that Muhammad did and not one of the ones that, I don't know, a meteor hitting the moon?
Muhammad did them all, Mark. He did them all.
Yeah. Can I say something about the moon splitting thing here?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Well, yeah. So here's what I do not understand about this alleged miracle here. We have people claiming that Muhammad somehow split the moon, yet there is not a single culture that independently corroborates this event. There is no corroborating evidence from anyone from this hemisphere at the same time. Now, you would think that if Muhammad actually split the moon, we would see lots of people writing about it. We would see Christians writing about it in Europe. We would see other people writing about it. But there's not any incidents at all. There is no independent corroboration of it. And that, I think, is why the whole story is suspect.
It's sus.
It's kind of embarrassing for them. I mean, it's just one of those stories that is so demonstrably false that they have to do some real mental gymnastics to get to the point where, yes, it was split, and, them bringing it back, a rock from the moon is evidence. It's such a mental hurdle to get over it. It's actually impressive watching them vault that particular hurdle. But Yeah, none of the stories in there have scientific evidence, and so when we're talking, is it scientific? Most of us would go, well, is there scientific evidence or any evidence to back it up? Is there a demonstration of these stories that can be relied upon, is sort of robust and reliable? And the answer is no, but that's not how they're interpreting science. Isn't the method, it's the, is it written in a book? And that's, well, yes, it's written in a book. Congratulations.
The book did say a thing.
It did say a thing. No, I concede that point. The book said a thing. I will concede that.
Thank you so very much, Mark. I'm glad we could finally get to the bottom of
We
that.
reached a
Checkmate,
consensus.
atheist. That's right. And all right, we're about to go into open discussion. I will say that, yes, we will be going to a Discord after show after the show.
After show.
That's right. After show. The link, that's where the cool parties are. The after party. The link of which will be in the description and in chat. We're sending loves to Megan and all of you out there in the chatosphere. I saw Mobarak sending love to the lovely
Mubarak.
Mubarak. And all right, I'll keep on
scolding Mubarak for being late.
Very sus.
I'm going to say it.
I know, so late, but that's okay. We like naughty boys here. What were we talking about? Anyway, keep
Mubarak
on
might be in trouble.
sending me,
You're
James W.
You're still stuck on the hard thing, right?
Listen, I am always stuck on the hard thing. What were we talking about again? But if you would like to send me, James W., Peter, or anyone on the panel a question or comment, tag me in chat at Amy Newman. I did see a comment up there that I wanted to read.
Some snide remarks. Yeah, we love them.
There we go. So we got, that's right, Lord of the Rings has no internal contradictions. Therefore, it's true. Starting to make sense. And I always say the Lord of the Rings definitely has a lot more wisdom than all of the Abrahamic religions combined. And on that
think
note,
of it, have we seen a contradiction in the Bible yet? We've been doing this study. I don't think we've come across one.
It's true. I don't think I've ever seen a contradiction in the Bible yet. In our Bible study, at least 40 times or something. So it could never happen. Never.
Not once.
Not once. But on that note, we are going into the open conversation. I'll still give openers if anyone would like to join us on the old stream yards. But this is our deck for the night. We're having fun. We are Midnight Ranting on Is the Quran Scientific? Oh my, theist Muslims, if you're out there, we sure would love you to join, but what do you think?
I did want to say
they're tending to their wounds. Go ahead, Leo.
I did want to say we have a nice deck here. You know, it's not too big, it's not too small. It's just a nice, well-rounded deck.
And it's true. Like, not too thick, not too thin. What were we talking about again? Moving forward.
I got the magical deck.
That's right, baby.
It's
Look,
my
we
magic
are talking
deck.
about serious subjects here.
Miracles.
I could just imagine Peter walking up to somebody. Do you want to see my magic deck?
I can do miracles with this.
A couple years of
Real
HRT will
miracles.
fix that problem.
So Kino says, how is it we consider flat earth nonsense, but we somehow argue about some dude splitting the moon in half? And as we learned, I think Muslims are flat earthers, or they should be if they read their holy text. But don't tell them that, because we really do not need more flat earthers in this world.
The moon's
Round
pretty-
world.
We still have debates over flat Earth as well, in fairness. So yeah, I
that's
agree
true.
with that as well, for some reason that I have no idea why. So
Teach the controversy, Mark.
You know, I would like to say something about the flat Earth is that it is very difficult to tell if they are being dead serious or if they're just being a bunch of trolls and pose. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to actually determine that with some people.
Pose
Because they
more.
sound the same.
Yeah, though I'm sure that there are some who are genuine believers. I wonder how many actually are versus how many people are actually looking to get attention and get views.
And money.
It's not so much about getting attention and views. For some, it is seriously making money being a flat earther. So that's
that
another
when you
thing.
look at the Kent Hovens of the world, I always ask myself, because they have been taught literally by the best biologist in the world. And so at that point, you have to ask yourself, maybe it's not us, maybe it's you, Mr. Creationist.
Mm-hmm. Although, in all fairness, I still am a firm believer that Kent Hovind actually believes what he's trying to convey.
That may be true.
As opposed to his son, who I think knows that it's just all bullshit, but it's bringing in the cash.
And his son is not Stephen Powell, just so we're asking.
It's impossible
Matt
to tell.
Powell, yeah.
Matt Powell, thank you.
Matt Powell.
Tell whether people genuinely
Stephen Powell, really?
Yeah, I am.
To be honest, I have only watched. I've just learned about him like a month or two ago, and
Matt Powell?
is he? Yes, like
in all fairness, Leo, it's an easy mistake to make. Hovind has two boyfriends. One's called Stephen, the other one's called Powell. Just saying.
That makes
I
sense.
prefer the word boy toy.
Just getting them all mixed up. I prefer the phrase a butt buddy.
Yeah.
they're not married. It wouldn't be married.
It's possible.
They'd be butt buddies.
Very good.
I'm quoting a TV show.
That does explain why Matt Powell is so eager to advocate for the government to kill LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
Well, thou dost protest a little bit too much and always.
Yeah,
Though,
I will say that Matt Powell, from my perspective, looks like the stereotypical closeted gay guy who is self-deprecating, and the opening of the Kent Hovind Matt Powell videos literally look like the opening of a daddy-son gay porno.
Oh boy!
The way they sit there and it's just smiling, just like.
How many?
I think Matt Powell is super straight. Did you know?
Yeah. Okay.
So straight that he has transcended straightness into someone else's. What were we talking about, buddies, again? Anyway, Mobarak, the fantastic, lovely, and awesome Mobarak. We are Midnight Ranting on Is the Quran scientific?
Is the scientific Quran? Is it? Is it, Amy?
But no, slowly but surely, yes. But no. Is the Quran scientific, Mobarak? Help us out.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mobarak.
So, the Quran, as we know, it could be used into a scientific experiment. So you could burn it, you could stretch it, you could write on it. So technically, you could use it in science if you need to. But if you are talking about the content of the book, as in the words and what it means, they are limited to the science known to the 7th century Arabia. Nothing more, nothing less. And that's the sad reality of a lot of people don't want to acknowledge. Like, I have seen someone on Twitter defending the fact that Muhammad didn't know about it, even though that he was a merchant, and went and talked with people who lived like in contact with the Roman, Greek, Persian, knew a lot of what's going on in the world. They knew the stories. One of my favorite thing about how people actually were more connected than than what Muslim wanted to do in Arabia, claim the isolation, is there's a guy in Arabia, the time of Muhammad. His name was Al-Hadr ibn al-Harith, or Nadr ibn al-Harith. And he used to wait until Muhammad finished talking about preaching in Mecca. And he stand up and he say, Muhammad finished telling you about the Jews and those people and their God. Let me tell you about the Persian and their God. And he will stand for hours talking, mocking, telling stories, exactly what Muhammad did. So I like that guy because he knew Muhammad was full of it. And the Quran is not scientific. There's a lot of mistakes in the Quran. The fact that it presents Earth as flat and a firmament on top of it. The digestion of the embryos is not correct. What else is in it? Try to remember.
Lamps.
The lamps.
Lamps.
Yeah.
Lamps.
Yeah. Stars fall on Earth, and stars, we know if a star fell on Earth, Earth is gone. So.
Yes, it is.
Wouldn't
even be a competition.
If a star fell on the Earth, the star wouldn't be falling on the Earth. The Earth would be falling on the star.
Exactly, that's true.
Yeah.
Isn't there a bit where the Earth gets destroyed?
I want to check with you, Mobarak. When you say the Quran is filled with the knowledge that people had at the time, nothing more, nothing less. Are you sure about the nothing less part?
No. No.
I'm just saying they may have known a bit more than is written down in the Quran.
There is. I'm pretty sure if you find a scientific book from that time talking about something, that it might have more knowledge than what the Quran have.
And if I could just say something, if there was actually a star heading towards the Earth, we would feel its gravitational effects long before it reaches us.
I just want to see.
That's the thing, and it's and there is some stuff that you could, I don't know, like the fact that Muhammad in the Quran uses that talks about the beginning of Earth, and it's exactly like the biblical beginning, the 6 days beginning. But because Muhammad didn't like the idea that God rested on the seventh day, he didn't mention the seventh day.
I just want to say my favorite part of the Quran is right before the Earth gets ready to read out the answer to life, the universe, and everything, where the Vogons destroy it to make way for a hyperspace bypass.
It is fantastic chapter.
Both the Quran and the Bible are based on the Torah, right? So it's not really surprising. And that in their defense, don't they sort of say that the Muslims sort of say yes, it is based upon.
I tried to read the Quran, and I just couldn't get past the first surah without my mind being so bewildered of how incoherent it actually is. The whole idea of the Quran being the way that it is laid out, being stitched and spliced together in various parts, and it just makes no coherent sense whatsoever from what I understand. And Mobarak, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you know more about this than I do. It's that there are some verses that are spliced together from different revelations and put them all kind of hodgepodge into a single verse, and it's just making so incoherent and almost impossible to follow. Is that right, Mobarak?
So yeah, if you're gonna go and buy a Quran today, a modern Quran today, you'll find the first surah is Al-Fatiha, the opening, which is a quick prayer, and it's usually used as a like the Lord prayer in Christian. So it's like the prayer that you repeat all the time. And the second surah, which is the biggest surah, is Al-Baqarah, which is the cow. And it's a long story surah, which with a lot of things in it. So it talks about the non-believers in the beginning.
Second chapter?
Yeah, the second chapter.
Can I just interrupt you for just 1 second? There's two things I have taken away from slowly reading the Quran, especially more lately. Number one is they love to retcon things. They're like, oh, you loved Cain and Abel? Well, here's like a shorter version and shit. Take that. They love doing that, or sometimes longer, apparently, of Noah. Who knew that Noah gets to be such a, Noah Part 2, Noah Part 3. And then the other thing, especially...
Don't forget Noah, Return of the Flood.
This time it's personal?
With Russell Crowe.
Yeah, that's right.
Noah
He's flooding around the world. But yes, the other thing, and the cow specifically, because I don't want to do a Quran study yet, but I do want to do a single episode of like a Quran study of just the second chapter, because a lot of times Muslims will come up to you and you'll be like, well, you haven't read any of it, so how can you even say anything? So I just want to get a chapter under skeptics belt. If they haven't already checked out the fantastic Aron Ra with Mobarak and Peter. But I also,
if you're going to do that, Amy, if you're going to do that, can I suggest that you have Mobarak and Bogey on?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, that would be
mandatory.
We can get, yeah,
100%.
That would be.
And then just to piggyback off what Mobarak was saying, and I'll even hand it back over to you, the cow specifically, you start to realize how triggered that this religion is by non-believers. Not Christians, not Jews, very specifically just non-believers. They hate them. They're like, look, we'll get the Jews and the Christians to pay us money or be our bitches or something, but these non-believers, how dare they? Yeah. Yes, and so, like, can you please, I would say, reiterate how triggered this dude seems to be by just people not believing in him? It seems to be one of the biggest crimes, except for, I think, being a Muslim and then becoming a non-believer.
Yeah, so the thing about Muhammad not being believed, so a very, very quick story about Muhammad. He gets this revelation, or that he didn't even know it was revelation. He gets scared. He runs to his wife. A priest, an historian or a non-Orthodox priest, tells him that it was Gabriel coming to him with a message. The priest is too old. He dies and not that long after, but leaves Muhammad with this idea of being a prophet. So he starts preaching and telling people, and most people around him knew about the stories that he was telling, and they were laughing at him, especially the elite of the town that he lived in Mecca. They were like, hey, we know these stories. We heard them before. It's the story of our grandfathers, our fathers before them. It's like stuff like this, you know?
So he's that guy. He's telling a story and putting himself in it instead of them.
Exactly. So like Moses is the most mentioned like prophet or messenger in the Quran. It's Moses, not Muhammad. I think Jesus is not that far after him. So it's like he's Muhammad trying to attach himself to those previous religions that they were very well known to the area. So Christianity, Judaism is very common in Arabia. Polytheism seems to be on the phases of actually phasing out of the area. Because if you read a little bit of the history before that, for about 500 years or so, there was a big Jewish kingdom in Yemen, and that the Jewish kingdom had reached into Middle Arabia and stuff like this, into the Hijaz. But no one believes him, or a little bit believes him in Mecca. He goes to another town. He gets ridiculed, like get basically pelted with stone and kids yelling at him. And he runs away from that town, and he's like very, very depressed. And then he goes to to a point where he was thinking about suicide. Like
Nathan Thompson trying to preach at the school.
Yeah, it's like he was thinking about killing himself at that time. Like I'm not like, it was really bad for him. And then here comes people from Medina and tell him that, oh, you could come with us. We like what you're saying. As long as you become like a mediator between, there's two tribes in Medina that we're fighting. So he moves there, and
Hi, kitty.
Aw, cute little
Yeah,
kitty.
my cat just attacked my headset.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Kitty,
She
kitty,
Well,
wasn't
kitty,
actually,
kitty, 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 kitty,
if
kitty,
I
kitty, kitty,
could
kitty.
just send in hearts out there. What is up, Amaretto? And what is up, everyone out there in chat? I see so many
Amaretto.
fantastic atheists and theists. And in fact, if you would like to ask the panel or anyone a question, feel free to tag James W. or myself at Amy Newman. In fact, Kino says non-believers may come with some actual arguments. Other religions with just my imaginary friend is better than yours. Uh-oh, the spice is real,
It just
ladies
got
and
real.
gentlemen. So what do you think, non-believers? Can't we come up with any actual arguments other than that imaginary best friend?
I think that would depend on the unbeliever.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think it's fair to say that like theists don't have good arguments. I mean, their arguments might not be unsound, but there are arguments they have that are technically valid, and they do defend them. And there is a rich literature on their defense and a rich literature to counter that as well. And I think that this idea that we can just dismiss either side as you don't have any arguments, you're wrong, and that is just not at all the case.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I
think-
don't dismiss their argument. I dismiss their evidence and what they claim to be facts. So that's the like I could argue for hours. I come from a long line of sea merchants. We know how to talk. We will sell you sand in the middle of the desert.
By the way, Mobarak, I had a couple questions, if I may.
Yeah.
Just about Islam. So.
Mm-hmm.
Does Islam teach at all that if you do not believe in Islam that you go to some sort of hell or like don't get into paradise or anything like that?
So yes, there's two categories for it. If you know about Islam and you don't believe in it, you're going to hell. If you don't know about Islam and you don't know totally no knowledge about Islam and you die, you will go in a place. You will come the day of judgment. You will be resurrected again. So it's not purgatory, not like the Catholic one that you have to do something.
Sleep?
It's kinda, and then you will wake up, and Allah will collect all those people who have not believed or didn't hear about Islam, and He will basically tell them, send one guy with them and tell them to do something crazy, like I think it's like jump in the river and it's like river fire or something like this. So they will ask to do this extreme thing that defy logic, and the only way to do it is by faith. So the one that jumps in are the one that would have believed in Allah and during their life, and the one who did jump in are the people who did not believe. So that's how He divide them. So everyone either go to hell or to heaven. There is no third place.
Okay, so my second question is, does Islam teach that Allah has any personal desires for everyone to believe in Him so that they don't go to hell?
Here's a contradiction, because the Quran says that the only reason God created humanity and plus the jinn is to worship Him. That's the only reason. That human, you are worth nothing if you do not worship God. And then in another verse, He says He created a lot of humans and jinns for hellfire, like nothing else.
So basically,
yeah. So it's like it's.
So basically, from what I understand, basically the verse says that God literally created people just so they could burn in hell.
Yeah, some people are created just to be burned in hell, according to the Quran. But
all right, that means
the discussion of predetermination and free will and Islam is one of the oldest discussions, and there is no answer for it because there is evidence that supports both ways. But
I go both ways too. It happens.
It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
The only reason I say it sucks is because there's an argument that you can run against at least classical Christian theism, that is a pretty good argument. And I was hoping that you'd be able to use it against Islam, but if it can't be really reasonably defended that God has a personal desire that all people essentially don't go to hell, then it doesn't really work.
Yeah, but there is a hadith, which is, there's the thing, there's Quran verses and then the hadith. There's a hadith that talks about how, so Muhammad, after a battle, sees this woman that lost her kid in the mix of the battle when they were retreating the enemy, and she been captured. And she's breastfeeding, so she needs to she needs to feed the kid, and she couldn't find her baby. Imagine both of them are being captured now after battle. So he's looking at her, and she's like frantically looking for her kid, and he tells his companions that Allah is more passionate about people believing in him and coming to him than this woman finding her kid. So this hadith will say that Allah wants you to believe, but then there's other hadith that Allah doesn't care.
So it is possible for a Muslim, if I'm talking to one, to essentially answer yes to that question, that Allah does desire,
yes,
that all people believe. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. But again, it depends on the Muslim, because some Muslim will be like, no, Allah doesn't need you. You need Allah.
And I'm bringing up another. So Kina, I'll give you a chance, Mark. Just let me. If their argument, I saw he corrected it, and then I was like, correct it when you read it, and then I still didn't. So I saw that, Kano. That was me. If their argument about their holy book or God can be equally applied to another God or holy book, then it's not an argument. I agree.
Mobarak, I do have a question for you. In Islam, is there any concept of repentance or atonement for sin in Islam, like there is in Christianity and Judaism?
What?
A concept of repentance or atonement for sin in Islam as there is in Christianity and Judaism?
Oh, like you mean monetary repent, or do you mean
like repenting of your sins?
Oh yeah, there is, and there's a concept in Islam is that everyone is allowed to repent until their soul gets stuck in their life, basically until their last breath. Unless you're an ex-Muslim, that they will execute you, but that's a different case. they will bring your last breath closer to you.
I think what I was going to say. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. So there is, like, for example, now we talk about, the hypothetical example of this, like, evil tyrant that repent on his deathbed goes to heaven. Saddam Hussein. He was one of the most evil tyrants in the Middle East. Like, we never saw someone who used like just chemical weapon against a civilian for the longest time until Saddam and then the Syrian president. But he, in the video of his execution, he repented. So, to majority Muslim Sunnis, he is in heaven. His last word were Ashhadu la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He repented. He said the word, the magic word that will just forgive all his sins. He's in heaven.
You didn't say the magic word.
So, what exactly is the difference between the Shia and the Sunni Islam? I know it has to do with the whoever was the person who succeeded.
I'm pretty sure I know this, but Mobarak, tell me if I'm right. What happened is Muhammad died, and then the line of succession got between, I believe, his wife and then the uncle.
Abu Bakr?
And so there were two different camps. I believe his uncle won that battle-ish and became the Sunni, and the ones that leaned towards, I'm trying to think if it was Aisha or which wife, became Shia. Am I wrong, Mubarak? Am I
Okay,
close?
it's you kind of got the concept of it, but it's kind of backward. So
Gotcha. Aisha
it's-
Sunni, he's Shia.
yeah, so his father-in-law, actually, there's two fathers-in-law, and his son-in-law that they end up being the caliph, first caliph, and then his cousin, Ali. Ali is the Shia imam, the first imam of the Shiites.
Gotcha.
So the story goes that Ali was busy organizing the burial of the Prophet, and Abu Bakr, Umar, they kind of hurried up and put Abu Bakr as the leader of the Muslim to become a caliph. A caliph is a spiritual and political leader of the Muslim majority. And when he became the caliph, Ali didn't like it for the longest time. There is story said that he was sick for 6 days. We don't know exactly. And then when he felt better, he went and submitted. And there's stories that says no, he was bonded by rope, and his wife was beating until she actually miscarried. And a few months after that, she died from the injuries and the bleeding. So there is some shady stuff going on. But the first caliph was Abu Bakr. That is recognized by the Sunni as the first caliph. But the Shia don't like him, and they think it should have been through the family, not through what we call ijma' of ummah, which is the election or the agreement of the ummah, which is the nation, Islamic nation.
All right.
So what are the?
All right. Can I just get something in quick here? I have a question, and that's only tangentially related, but it seems to me that from what little I've read of the Quran, and I haven't read that much, that it doesn't really lend itself to scientific inquiry. How then did the Middle East become such a hotbed of learning for math?
Here is the craziest thing. Okay, here is the craziest thing about Islam. Islam, when it first started, was an elite religion. So the only people who believed really in Islam were the elite who ruled. And the elite ruled there because the majority were either Christian, Jews, Zoroastrian. So there is a high mix of the early empire, Islamic empire. It's highly mixed with different people living there. So you cannot just go and kill them all. So they end up just being friends. And there's evidence where they, my favorite evidence is this Muslim guy tackled the priest because the priest, he threatened the priest that he's going to kill him because the priest refused to give, basically what in mass when they give the bread, I'm trying to remember what the sacrament.
Communion.
Yeah, the union. There was
communion.
The communion. The priest was kind of questioned because his wife is Christian, but she's married to a Muslim. So her Muslim husband was like, "Hey, you give her the communion, or I'm gonna beat you up." So there was a lot of people living together and a lot of connection. But the biggest thing is that the elite, when you have an elite religion, you have most of the time, a very liberal religion, even liberal, not in modern day liberalism, but more more relaxed on multiculturalism and stuff like this. So in the beginning, Islam was until about 1200, Islam was one that area was very, very open for other religion, very open for, and it's totally in contradiction of what Muhammad taught, but that's how they lived. Comes the 12th religion, and there is a guy named Ibn Taymiyyah. He is the most known scholar now, especially for the fundamentalist Muslim. the Salafis. He is the one that started the fact that, oh no, we need to actually just follow the exact words of the Quran and what they did. Well, the other people, for the other houses of fiqh, which is the Islamic ruling, they were just accepting what their previous scholars said, and a lot of them were had a lot of connection with Greek philosopher and Persian philosophy too. So there's like a belief the Greek philosopher believe in one of the things that they had a big problem with, because the Quran talks about like the hand of God, the face of God, the body of God. A lot of the earlier Muslims said, do not say that. It's blasphemy to say that the face of God is an actual face, but the face of God means his power, or the hand of God is his work. Comes this guy and he said, no, he actually has a face and he actually has a head, but we don't know how they look like. So from the 1200 beyond, Islam or the Middle East was like attacked from multiple areas of non-Muslims. Some of them end up being assimilated into Islam. Some of them did not. The fundamentalist thing became very popular in Arabia. A guy named Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab became very popular and supported by another guy called Ibn Saud, and then Saudi Arabia was born. Saudi Arabia find oil. Saudi Arabia starts pumping money into a lot of places and teaching them the Islam of Saudi Arabia, not the Islam that was common in that area.
This is all very interesting, but my question wasn't how it stopped happening. I want to know how it happened in the first place.
Oh yeah, the first place is because they found the books of the Greek and the Persian and the Indians that they were dealing with, and they were like, hey, God likes mathematics, because one of the names of God is the accountants, basically, because he's going to count your sin. So he have to be good at counting. So started with mathematics, and then you need to learn how to you need to learn where you're at, so you could pray to the correct direction, because you have to pray to Mecca, toward Mecca. If you don't know where you're at on the globe, you don't know where to pray. So you need to find a way. So that's how they started learning about the stars and how you align yourself with the stars. So there is like stuff in Islam that allowed to it, but the biggest reason is that a lot of the early empire were like more open to mixed beliefs, and like it's funny. It's very, very interesting to look how Islam changed.
Mm-hmm. And actually, Porpoise, I know you have to head out. Did you want to make any final comments? We have been Midnight Ranting on Is the Scientific Quran? I did it again. Is the Quran a scientific textbook?
Sorry for heading out. I'm just yawning into the microphone. I'm not sure I'm hitting the mute button.
Hey, I will say that's the great thing. We got the midnight oil burning, so sometimes we feel it.
That's not good. Your oil shouldn't be burning. Your fuel should be.
But
stop ruining my metaphors.
As always, be excellent to each other. And so long, and thanks for all.
He can't help it.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so much, wonderful tablets. These sinister Porpoise. But we're actually about to read a comment in a second, but I want to get her in. We get one out, we get another one in.
Get an echo, Amy.
One second, I'm just mute. And all right. What is up? She has herself as the one true God. We clearly have evidence of God. But
echo.
Amaretto,
Who's echoing?
I don't know.
You are doing fantastic
Amaretto?
tonight. We are Midnight Ranting on Is the Quran Scientific? What are your thoughts?
Fuck no, it's not a scientific textbook. You want a fucking scientific textbook? I can show you my biology and my chemistry textbook right over here. It is. These documents are not scientific. The cultures were responsible for scientific advancement like any other. And in fact, if I remember correctly, at one point, the wealthiest man in the world was a Muslim from Africa. I forget his name. But, you know, I'm not saying that there's no good contributions that people who are of the Islamic faith have not made. But to say that the Quran is a scientific textbook is just plain out false. It's the same thing with the Bible. It's the equivalent of Aesop's fables. There might be some value in it, sure. Obviously, they're relevant cultural documents. So, I mean, if you want to use them as a textbook in that regard to study sociology, well, you have something there. But as far as like hard, definite science, that
hard science.
Oh my. And all right.
Hard, long, thick, throbbing science.
Muhammad in
15 feet.
Well,
of
I
science.
will say,
Oh, the fool just jumped out at me.
and so Amaretto, thank you so very much for joining us. David, did you want to have your outro? And then I think we may have, well, I was going to say someone who may have a different view on us, but I think actually on this
Canadian
specific topic,
Catholic.
he may agree with us. So, you know, we're
Wow.
bringing atheists and theists together tonight. But David, did you want to have your outro?
Thank you, Amy, for having me on. It is a pleasure. I love all of you guys. You guys
Good to
are
see
the
you on,
best.
David.
And I have a very special event next week over on my channel. Next week is my birthday. So on Thursday, I will be having a fun stream, kind of an open mic, kind of like a little bit of a party. So depending on, I am considering changing it to Friday, depending on who signs up. So if you're interested, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or via email. But next week is my birthday, and there will be a party on my channel.
Darth Dawkins will be
Pisces
there.
are
Looking
trash.
forward to it.
No,
What was that?
Pisces are
Darth
trash.
Dawkins will be there.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Love you all.
Thank you so very much, David. Love
Good night,
you
David.
right back. And I was gonna read some
Bye, David.
questions. I will if you keep on sending those to us at James W. myself and Amy Newman. But I do want to get Canadian Catholic. I have to. There is a fantastic pillow before. Oh wait, yes. Here we go. I just have to. Because he's here.
In
We
the
have to
meantime,
say
can
am
I
a
just
member
say
of the Atheist Inner Circle? So I've been ready.
You've been
For a
ready.
long time.
Too bad he didn't bring Darth on.
Sitting on that for a while.
Amy, in the meantime, can I just say I'm really happy to see Amaretto again. We missed you,
Oh,
girl.
it's great to see her.
Miss you. So good. And I love your hat. It's amazing.
I will have to say, this channel seems to be getting accessorized. So I just want to send love to everyone out
Yeah.
here. Who,
I'm just trying my best to tell Lady Demetress.
Get the sports hat, Amy.
Like
I
step
know,
on
I
me,
should.
mommy. So that's what we're doing for 2022 is step on me, mommy vibes.
woo-hoo. And all right, though, Canadian Catholic, it is lovely to have you on. We are
Welcome
talking,
aboard.
is the Quran scientific?
I know. I watched the video and I actually finally got to squeeze out Aron Ra's height. I mean, actually, yeah, I was very interested to find it out.
You've been wondering to know that, yeah.
Yeah.
Shorter than I
The
expected.
hard-hitting
I'm
questions.
taller than Aron Ra.
Really?
tall are
You're
you?
taller than 6 foot?
I'm about 6'3".
Oh, you're taller
wow.
than that normally.
I'd normally say I come from a big family because my mom is 5'8". I am like 5'9", 5'10". My dad is 6'1" or 2", and my brother is like 6'2", 6'3". But whew, we have tall
God damn.
people on the channel
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm glad I'm not
Which
tall. I don't want to
I'm,
be tall.
this is discrimination against the short clan. as a representative of the under 5'5" clan, I'm going to say that we need to have some more equity and equality here. That includes we need some cardboard boxes so we can stand up and like face you guys.
So I wanted to jump in on that as well, because Amy, you can talk all about your height, but it doesn't matter when you're on your knees.
Oh, baby.
Wow, yeah.
Now you're talking my language. But I do have to send it right back to Canadian Catholic, though. Do you think the Quran is a scientific text?
No. More importantly, I think that Muslims have done themselves a disservice by arguing that sort of thing. Because if you look at like early Islamic philosophers, some of the medieval ones, they actually specifically avoided saying that Averroes comes to mind, especially. So I do think that Muslims have done disservice. But that aside, I thought that this discussion, I thought that Muhammad presented what I would consider the worst apologetics I've ever heard, pretty much. I don't think I've ever heard anything that bad. It must have been trolling. And I've heard some very, very bad apologetics, to be honest.
You've heard Darth Dawkins' apologetics. I mean,
now I'm curious. Do you have better ones for Christianity?
Compared to Muhammad, I believe that was the name, presented, I do think that Darth Dawkins is a genius. I mean, that was.
Gosh darn it! I was about to say I can't believe
New Jersey oust you.
I was about to say I can't believe I'm agreeing with you, and then you went to Darth Dawkins. But to go back to me agreeing with you, I can't believe. Look, I love modern day debate, and I am so happy that we get so many fantastic interlocutors on there. But Muhammad, if you're watching this, you did not come prepared. This was not your A game. It has nothing to do with atheist or Muslim. Obviously, you didn't impress Christians.
Maybe Muhammad just needs to spend a little bit more time on his knees and contemplating before, God. And
he skipped one of his 5 daily prayers.
Oh.
Now we're getting to the true answer.
5 is the bare minimum, buddy.
And all right, I do see that we had comments. If in the chat, you can keep on sending them at Amy Newman.
So, did you see anything that you thought had any merit, or nothing at all that you heard today from Muhammad?
Everything that I heard from Muhammad was either trolling or just plain stupidity. I mean, I've never heard anything that bad, to be honest.
Do you think that he was trolling?
But that's one explanation for why it was that bad.
See, I just really think that they are so used to people granting them so much that he came into the scientific debate with like, of course it's not a scientific textbook. What are we debating? What is the topic?
But it's still scientific.
It's still scientific.
But he, like I said, I think he was like trying to think of, is the information in it scientifically accurate? And I mean, I don't think he did it.
It was a malformed
topic. It seemed like he wanted to slowly change it into an argument about just religion in general. Why are we even talking about science? Islam's true, so,
believe or go to hell.
That's the thing about a lot of apologetics, is refusing to acknowledge reality and just accepting like, oh wait, I could show you that my religion is true, so anything in it is true. It's just like the example when you have you could have a fictional book with something true in it, and then do you assume
like
everything true in it? Yeah.
Yeah, or like people have used the examples of Harry Potter. London exists in Harry Potter, so therefore the rest of it has to be true. Or I think
Spider-Man, yeah.
There was an American werewolf in London. I think there's video evidence of that.
One of my favorite movies all time.
I mean, we can call these things coincidences. Like the one thing I can say that I've been looking at recently that kind of came up on my feed, the gentleman who created Phineas and Ferb, he was going on about how he basically winged a lot of character design for Perry the Platypus, and then years later scientists are finding out basically like, oh well, platypuses can glow, and they glow the same color that he made Perry the Platypus. They make some of the same sounds that they ad-libbed. So coincidences, but not anything, it's nothing hardcore, nothing that you can prove, in a linear way. And I mean, being team theist, I think, like, sometimes those things do happen. Sometimes I think, like, we are all connected in some way, shape, or form. But does that make it necessarily science? No. So, it's the same thing with the fucking prophecies, Nostradamus, and all these prophecies from the Bible. Like, at some point, and we've talked about this before here on Midnight Ranting, at some point, you're going to, roll the dice and it's going to be that exact number. You're going to be able to make correlations between different events, interpreting them in certain ways. It's the same thing, with my lovely tarot cards.
It's confirmation bias. It's counting all of the hits but ignoring all of the misses. Like, you might read through a ton of the things in those tarot cards and it might say, hey, you might meet this person, but you ignore all of the things that it says that never happen. And that seems to be just human nature. It's what we do.
And it gets tough with certain things like tarot and astrology. A lot of the things, they're not necessarily
science. I'm sorry, keep on going.
Trying to, we're used to seeing things, it's like the yes or no, the black or white, right? With tarot and astrology, sometimes, like, the messages you're getting, they're not going to be at that 100 or that 0. Sometimes the theory with it is that it could be small little things. Like, for example, I had something in my astrological chart a couple weeks ago where it's like, you're going to come into some money. I found $150 that I had totally forgotten about in my car. Technically, I came into some money, so I didn't know I had it. But, it's just those little things. Like, it's not like I came into 10 grand,
Wait,
and
left in the first place.
I want to thank Canadian Catholic. If you slipped out, just want to say thank you for coming on our stream. We really do appreciate all of our theist brothers and sisters that come and join us.
I have to say, my favorite thing about I read the newspaper, local newspaper. They have their like astrology and everything. And every now and then I will read it just for shits and giggles. And the month that I met my girlfriend, my current girlfriend, it said that I should focus on myself and not on other people. And I met my girlfriend. I was like, it's funny telling me to focus on myself, and here's another person that I need to focus on. So, and now we have been together for a couple of years, and I was like,
you're saying it was the opposite.
It was the exact opposite of what the stars told me. It's like,
Sometimes you get readings like that, and it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean to, like, not focus on the relationship, but it just means, like, focusing on yourself and being mindful of, taking care of you. Because sometimes what happens is people, then when they get into a relationship, they start to lose themselves. Everybody is a little bit different. So
exactly, it was vague enough that I could interpret it any way I wanted it. So I interpreted it the way that they didn't want me to interpret it. So
and they studies with sort of the personality horoscope things, the astrology stuff, where they basically get the same personality rundown for all these different star signs and give it to the people and say, hey, this is you. And they all say, yes, that's exactly me.
And guys, I want to give a follow-up to, I think, Mobarak, which is, wasn't the, Mika, what is up? Says, wasn't the progressive stage of the Middle East mainly because of Persia before the destruction by Alexander, or am I wildly wrong? I think that's kind of a follow-up to Porpoise.
No, Alexander was hundreds and hundreds of years before any of the like the golden age of Islam, probably even 1,000 years before that.
Can I interrupt your explanation? I was literally looking at this in the Quran today, probably because of Aron Ra. They claim Alexander the Great as a Muslim.
Oh
What
yeah.
is this? What?
So
what?
yeah, two
Religion,
things.
ladies and gentlemen.
The story. Everyone who believed in God and became like very famous in the Middle East, they claim it as a Muslim. So you know,
Makes sense.
just like you know how Cyrus the Great ended up becoming the Messiah. It's the same thing. So it's like Alexander the Great, he was doing great. So he is Muslim. Of course he is Muslim. How would he conquer all this if he didn't believe in God?
And to be fair, Muhammad did say this during the debate. Who was the first Muslim? And he said Adam.
Yep.
So everyone else after that was Muslim, obviously. They didn't know it, but they were.
Because Islam doesn't recognize any other religion except Islam. Because in the Quran says that the religion in the eyes of God, the only religion in the eyes of God is Islam. Anything else is so it's a what they call it, abomination.
Funny how every religion. Yeah, funny how every religion makes that same claim. We're right.
Mm-hmm.
All of
It
you
is
are wrong.
very similar
We're right.
apologetics.
I mean,
Yeah.
part of the reason I identify with the Unitarian Universalist Church is like the overall belief I have that I don't think any one culture has it 100% right. I think for a lot of Christians to, and Muslims, like there's a lot of ethnocentrism there where it's my way, my culture, my religion is the gold standard and by which I'm going to judge and assess and criticize and critique everybody else. And I just find that very haughty and very unrealistic. And it's really sad that we still have people that believe that kind of thing, especially now that we are a global community. With the exception of course, I think a few isolated tribes near the Indian Ocean, who have been left to be for good reason.
Well, it's not just that. They'll kill to prove it,
Well, I just think it's like, aside from the proof, I just think it's like, I take, I wouldn't say offense. I would say it rubs me the wrong way when someone is so 100% sure, but there's so many other different cultures and so many other wonderful, smart, intelligent people. No one culture has a claim on science. As we can see, we're used to, especially here in America, after 9/11, looking down on Islam and Muslims in general. And yet math and science were prominent in those culture,
And I do want to parse that out. Frequently, because at least in America, a lot of Muslims face deep prejudice. And so we do have to separate out the fact that we need to be decent, honest human beings to all of our theist brothers and sisters, while also intellectually, in my opinion, pushing away towards religion. But it has to be both of those things.
I mean, for me, my overall goal is just to, honestly, I feel it's like the kind of the principles of a lot of people I've met in the Unitarian Universalist Church are kind of how we should be in a broader sense, and in bringing that kind of goodness out there, like, finding inspiration and faith in different things, because even atheists and agnostics are part of the Unitarian Universalist Church. It's a community of coming together and exploring and learning and just trying to, be good to one another. And that's the kind of thing I want to foster, because I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where everybody's 100% on the same page. Humankind has lasted how long? We've had how many different religions, faiths that have come and gone. Some have stayed and, dominated. I don't know if we're ever going to get to a point where, you know, atheism is, you know, the overwhelming dominant, and by overwhelming dominant, I'd say like 80 to 90% of the population at least.
Hopefully more.
But,
well, I
you
think
know,
that's fine. Moral imperative, but it kind of when you're talking about science, it occupies a different realm than your moral and cultural standard. There, it occupies a very stringent methodology that it's not really up to, or it tries not to be up to interpretation so much as empirical data.
Accuracy and precision are very important in science, and, you know, also peer review, making sure, you know, that, you know, impartiality when we're looking at everything as well. And yeah, like, I'm not going to say like this is a science by any means. You know, at the same time, I'm just, you know, I think that I think the main goal where I'm pushing for is, like, I would like for atheists to not be looked down upon in general society. I'm kind of like with Team Randolph Richardson on this one, where it's
normalizing atheism.
Yes, normalizing atheism, because especially here in America, it would be really nice for people to be able to run for politics without worrying that someone's going to say, oh, they're an atheist and they're evil. Which is really sad that that's still a big thing in 2022 America, but it is. But yeah, I science should definitely be kept, I think, away, different. Like, I'm not disputing, you know, that regards. I'm just more talking on a broader cultural sense. Scientifically, you know, we don't have enough ways to prove or to even test and, you know, research into some of the, you know, these theories. Like, how are we going to prove that a soul? I want to prove that a soul exists or not. I would love to do research into that. That's been something I've wanted to do for a very long time.
How are you defining prove in this context?
I'll just see, like, whether or not it exists or not. Prove the existence or prove the not existence of it.
Well, the only reason I asked that is because if in this context we're taking proof simply to mean something like very, very strong evidence in favor of either its existence or non-existence, and I would say we've proven that a soul does not exist.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, we just don't have ways to test certain things. We can, you know, there's
If something existed, do you suppose that you would be able to test for it? And if you couldn't, in what sense could you really say that it exists? You can't test it, measure it, verify it. You can't quantify it. It doesn't weigh anything. It isn't located anywhere. It doesn't endure for any amount of time. It doesn't have any mass. It doesn't have any energy. I mean, if something exists that way...
My theory is it does have energy. So, you know...
What kind of energy?
I think it's like electrical. I think it's based upon the soul is part of electrical energy. And I mean, it's my little quirky theory. It's something I think I would love to be able to test on if we ever have advancements in technology. Now, do I go around saying that's 100% definite? No, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I told this to Amy before, because I mean, this has like been my theory, my little, not hardcore theory.
Are you saying that the soul emerges out of the totality of the electrical and the electrochemical processes that occur in the human body?
I think so. I think the soul is a part of human.
Yeah, that's just called functionalism.
Well,
I mean, I'm just saying that that is actually an idea.
I agree with Amaretto that just because you can't test for something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But however,
of course, that's definitely not my argument.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have. And honestly,
that we can't test for. They're just unfalsifiable things. So we can't. I would love to be able to test for a soul as well, but first somebody's got to come up with a methodology that is reliable that can perform this test. So.
I think it's also so one thing, and that's a question to you, Amaretto. What do you think a soul is, and what does a soul do?
I think the soul is like our personality and who we are, and that's what I think. You know, like in the mental health community, there's a lot of people who have struggled because they lose when they go on certain medications, like their sense of personality, self. They feel numb. They feel very muted. And that's part of why there are some people that have very hard times on staying on medication, especially with things like bipolar disorder. But I just think the soul is just a part of us. It's like that creative spark, that intuition, that sense of wonder that we get when we look at something we find beautiful. I think it's just something that's a part of us.
So I just want to specify. It sounds like Amaretto would not support sort of like a. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like you would come from the same perspective that, like, say, a Christian would, where it's sort of a substance dualism, where there is some sort of substance intrinsic to us that is the soul. Maybe that is what you think.
I don't know. I haven't really thought of that. Like, my general thing is, like, you know what? Like, I don't think, you know, a soul is a part of the body until you are born. And that's something I've held since my teens. You know, when I was doing a lot of thought on the abortion debate.
So you're
but
not
how did you reach
thinking-
that conclusion?
If you're thinking
or
of
do you-
a soul you're not thinking of something that will exist after you die.
I'm sorry, Peter. Can you repeat that?
You're not thinking of something that will still exist after you die. Or,
yes or no?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't have evidence for it, so I'm not too sure. I mean, listen, like, having lost a loved one recently, you know, there have been some weird and quirky things that have happened that remind me of my mom. You know, do I like to think that maybe there is something beyond this mortal coil? Maybe, you know, a different plane of existence? Yeah, I believe, you know, I think that there might be some evidence towards that if we're going into, like, you know, the supernatural and stuff. But, you know, I would like to be able to, like, kind of find ways to maybe accumulate data, maybe see if there's something there, maybe, you know, when technology is better. But I'm not going to say that it's something that is 100% fact and everybody should live their lives by it. I'm more of a sense of, like, trying to gather a bunch of people together in just good faith of, like, trying to figure out, like, more about this wonderful world and universe we live in, and fostering that sense of curiosity and wonder, and not saying that, you know, because the Quran or the Bible or whatever says it's this, that's it, and anything else is heresy.
And guys, so we got 5 more minutes, and then we are heading out into our outros before we head over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord for the after show. But if you guys have any other questions for each other, now is the time to do it, because we are about to head out.
I want to say something before we it kind of goes back to like the reading tarots and stuff. There is a very high esoterics in early Islam that a lot of people don't acknowledge or don't want to talk about, because for the longest time we had the problem of Orientalism, where they basically looked down on a lot of the because in the Middle Ages there was no science, there was just study of everything, and including esoterics and the mystics and stuff. So one of the biggest books about like astrology is actually coming from the Middle East, and it's an Arabic book, and it was big in the beginning, and a lot of people thought just like how in the what's the name of it, Just like how it says in the prayer, I'm trying to remember now, and I cannot remember. The Lord's Prayer, like as it's in heaven, it's like on earth or something like this. Exactly, I don't exactly remember it, but they believe that the heavenly body is perfect, and that could reflect signs to reflect what God is doing, and that will reflect what's going to happen on earth. So, so it was big. Well, say big. There was a lot of people that wrote about it, trying to include it in Islam, and there's a resistance to it at the same time when it first came out. I just wanted to say that like the study of esoteric, it's not limited to one people or other. It's very common, and the study of the stars and reflection of it. It's funny how that nowadays we only focus on the Western signs. We don't care about a lot of the Eastern signs because that's the culture that we grew up in. We focus on those 12 signs, even though that they have shifted through time. There's like 81 signs on the sky, and we don't care about them. But
And all right, guys, I think for everyone's final statements, they can do so in the outros. But it has been a blast. We have been Midnight Ranting. We have the Aron Ra here to help us find out, is the Quran scientific? And I'm fairly sure we found an answer tonight. It needs to get its butt back in the lab. However, we are going into our outros so that we can head over to the after show.
By the way, Amy, I'm gonna just take off now because I want to go get food now. So much love for having me on. Take it easy, everybody.
Leo,
have a good night, Leo.
Love.
Good night,
Leo. Love having you on.
And also, before I go, I did want to say.
Absolutely. In fact, I can do you one better, Leo.
No, I did. This is just a really quick. This is just a really quick statement. Some people might think this is going to be a little mean, but I'm sorry. I don't really care. I have to say a shout out to our local loon, Wesley Curry II. I see he has joined us here tonight, so I just wanted to give him a shout.
Some entertainment for you, Leo.
Yeah, that's about it. Anyways, I'm out of here, guys.
Thank you very much, Leo. It was lovely having you on. And we just want to send love to all of our theistic brothers and sisters. I did see you out there in chat, Wesley, so we're saying hi. That's
everybody for coming on, and especially to Aron Ra and Peter for making it so that Aron could be with us and have that interesting conversation with us. Thank you guys both.
Exactly. And it was always good to see.
Anytime.
Trying to think, not really a kitten versus a mountain lion, but you know, all I would say is Muhammad, baby boy.
You debating Aron Ra. You got to put your big boy pants on.
Gotta learn some apologetics. I've seen better apologetics in Dawa channels. Okay, go hang out in some Dawa channels like I do, or some apologetics.
No, don't corrupt the poor guy. Send him to Dawa channels.
Well, let me tell you. But I'm just saying, he is trying to give Dawa. So you would think if he's trying to invite people over there. But Mobarak is actually right. Muhammad, you probably
come on over, Muhammad.
Come on over to the non-believers. But we are actually starting our outros, and we are handing it over to, I mean, the name says it. We've had evidence of the one true God. But I know her Amaretto.
God-S.
That's right, God-S. Randolph Richardson would be mad at me right now. But we are normalizing atheism, gosh darn it. And
Amaretto with a T-O.
We are sending love. I hope you had a good time tonight. Where can people find you? And of course, is the Quran scientific? What are your final thoughts?
Yeah, you can find me raging at TERFs on Twitter still because people are crap to one another on the internet. At Amaretto Kitten. YouTube channel incoming. Actually, got my desk. I got my new desk. Getting my new setup done. We're gonna start recording soon. But I guess what is my channel name here? I can't even remember because I haven't really been on YouTube that
Fuck
much.
Turfs.
It needs to be Fuck Turfs. No, it's just Amaretto.
There you go. Or Amaretto Reals. Or...
Short, sweet right now. I don't know. We might be making a secondary channel name. We'll see. Because
Fuck Turfs 2.0.
I mean, listen. It's
like I said, Amaretto, if you're gonna set up a channel and if you need anything, you know where to find me. I'll help you with anything you need.
Thank you, Daddy.
The world needs Amaretto.
Yeah, so hopefully we're going to be talking not just our social justice stuff, but actually I'm looking to do stuff on biology and chemistry and science as well, because why not? Also probably a little bit of current events, because I think like most people in the U.S. probably keeping a side eye on Ukraine and Russia right now. That's making me kind of nervous. Listen, I'm from Delaware. When Biden doesn't come home for a weekend, that's concerning.
Oh boy.
So yeah, he's still in DC this weekend. We did not have a Joe Jam today at Russia.
Does he know he's in DC still, or?
Yes, we know.
He knows where he's at.
Outlets from multiple sources that he's staying in DC and meeting with national security advisors and stuff this weekend, and so regardless of whether you're theist or atheist, positive thoughts towards the people in Kiev and Ukraine. Especially there's a lot of creators and artists, independent artists and stuff like that in that area. Families are already being affected. If I remember correctly, there's already been mortar shelling near, daycare or school or something like that I was reading about earlier today. It was really upsetting. So positive thoughts towards those people. And then because I get so off topic, let me try and wheel it back in. The Quran, the Bible, the Torah, not scientific documents. The only way you probably pull them into any realm of scientific anything is if you're trying to tie it to psychology, sociology, maybe. I guess if you want to study like the effects of religion on people, if there's anything to do with that, that might be the only ways I can really think of. However, that said, I don't have my bachelor's, my master's, or my PhD yet. So what the fuck do I know? I'm just another schlub on YouTube like the rest of us. Except for when Pat, I don't know anybody else's credentials but Pat. And Pat
is our resident archaeologist.
So
Amaretto's our social justice warrior.
Rogue, or
I
Bard.
was just testing you to see if you would pick up on that.
Always, gotta stay ready. But so good to see quite a few of you. I decided to jump on because I was like, oh, it's Mark, it's Peter, and it's Leo. Yay!
Woohoo!
Mm-hmm. So
it was good to see you.
Good to
we
see
missed you.
Yeah, we did.
It was great.
Give me good thoughts, because I'm like, chemistry's kicking my ass this semester. I'm like, I feel
not
like
as much as the gentleman in that debate.
I went blonde. It made me feel so dumb. I embraced the bimbo already.
You had a little bimbification. Is that what you're saying?
I'm over it. My teacher's a retired DuPont chemist.
Lean into it.
It's great. He's like, chemistry sucks, and he wasn't wrong.
And all right, thank you so much, Amaretto. And yeah, get the one channel, the second channel, and as always, the non-believers and allies of science. We shill hard on here, just like Pieta was telling you. So yeah, looking.
And what about the turf?
Real quick. I forgot to add that I am taking tribute. If you would like to subscribe to my OnlyFans and donate to the one true God, I will not say no, because this fucking economy sucks ass. I need every single fucking cent I can get right now. Please help me. It takes a lot of money to look this good for y'all.
Woohoo! That's right.
Wait. Did you steal that line from Dolly Parton?
Not that I know of, but listen, if anything of mine is going to be associated with Dolly Parton, I'm A-OK. That woman is a national treasure. She is going to be the next Betty White, dare I say, at this point. I forget, Morgan Freeman and Dolly Parton. They are now Betty White 2 and 3.0. They cannot die. They are the national treasures. If their names ever go trending, we all take in bated breath here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Woo-hoo! Thank you so much, Amaretto. And I do also want to say that we do know that there isn't a God, because during the Big Bang, Betty White was there and she checked. But we are sending so much
anymore.
Love. Look.
Listen, the existence of a soul, I want to believe that Betty White is waiting for me on the other side. Okay?
And we're just sending love out into the universe and handing it back over to Mobarak, who it was fantastic having you on the channel as always, and especially when it comes to streams like this. Mobarak, where can people find you? And of course, what are your final thoughts? Is the Quran scientific?
Where people could find me, usually I am it's either I'm hanging around here or you'll find me on the Quran studies on Aron's channel. And we are coming up to, probably we have like 3 left. We'll be done with them. The Quran is not scientific. It's
quick question.
Yeah.
Mobarak, quick question. Were you here when Aron was still here?
No. At that time I was still sleeping.
So you didn't get what he said about you.
Oh shit! What did he say?
So I'll try to put it in my words as best I can. He mentioned you as someone who has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the Quran and to Islam, and he said it would be an entire waste if we didn't see you after the Quran lessons finished. And he even said that it might be good for you to start a channel. So you're already part
I agree with
Aron. The Aron Ra stamp of approval.
Should you want to start a channel, you know that I'll be more than happy to help you set that up and get you everything you need. Until then, I'm really proud that you're part of our team.
Well, thank you. I'm really proud.
We're proud to have you here as a contributor.
I'm happy to be here. Every time I'm here, I learn something new. I like to interact with people, all kinds of people that show up here. And okay, Aron Ra. Here's a quick thing about Aron. Aron is he is one of the biggest reasons that I do not believe the fact that the Quran, the Islam in general, does not match reality and science. And the reason I stopped believing, one of the biggest reasons is Aron Ra shows about the fundamentalist foundation of creationism. Because
that was an amazing series.
Yes, and his book is good, and there's more details in his book if you want to look into it. But so it's a very, very big honor for me to be just in his show, and to know that he talks about me. My ego is 2,000 size over. So no, I don't know what the future will bring if I end up having a channel or not. Sometimes a show here and there is good enough for me, because I see what ex-Muslims go through and their struggle with all kind of dawah and harassment they get. I don't know if I want that type of attention to myself. I'm not ready for it yet. Maybe in the future, we'll see. But that you find me on Aron Show, you will find me here. The Quran is not scientific. It doesn't know anything more than what people in the 7th century knew. It might know less, just like what Peter said. But I love coming here. I love showing up, and I like everyone, and I love you all. So hopefully next time I don't oversleep and be on time.
Thank you so much, Mobarak. Truly lovely having you on as always.
And thank you for your contribution to Quran lessons. You're a great asset, and I know that Aron holds you in very high regard. When you're not there, the show's not complete. I know that for a fact. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you for that.
And all right, we're gonna keep on going down the line, but I do just want to send loves out to, I hope I'm saying this, Siraj. Have you ever tried bringing some Muslim articulate to describe their position, just so you guys can understand what Islam is? Just wondering. We actually have had some Muslims on, not as many as I would like, though. And so I will continue, just like James W. and myself. We are trying to get as many theists on as we can, as many people that disagree with us, and just of the specific variety even more. And, you know, we will let people come on and say, as long as you obey the TOS gods, we will let people say generally whatever they want to defend their position. And so if the ideas last in the marketplace of ideas, did I say ideas? If the concepts left in the marketplace of ideas, there we go, that sounds better, then they will stand the test of time, the burden of proof, and the empirical scrutiny. But I love going on Christian apologetic channels, and I love going on Dawa channels. I don't know if little masochism there, but you know, it's a little fun, and we always welcome them on.
It's fun.
I can't remember. There are very few people that we ban, mute, blah, 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 because we really want you to get your ideas out. And we skeptics just love yapping and yapping anyway, so might as well get some theists on here. Skeptic theists, too.
Can I chime in on that, Amy?
Sure. Sure.
No, just quick on that particular question. It is, so I've been trying to get on Muslim apologists or just plain Muslims, because those are people that I would be interested in talking to. But it's really hard to get them on a show. For some reason, they're very, very reluctant. And the only reason I can think of is how they are treated on some of the channels. I'm interested in having a decent conversation, just as you are, Amy, and so I would love to see Muslims join shows like this, so we can have a constructive conversation.
Come one, come all, just once again, not on my sheets.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking for. But yes, we're sending love.
Thanks,
and
Peter.
We are sending it right back, because we are going. I don't know if I did answer this. Someone did have up, and I feel like I was supposed to. Another person asked, they're like, are we going to be heading into the Discord afterwards? And yes, we absolutely are going to. And you can join that in the link that I am pinning right now. So if you are looking for more non-believing, or if you're a believer, if you're looking for just more skeptic fun, come one, come all to our after show. And we are...
I have to bow out, guys.
Yep. And so I just want to say, James, honestly, it was awesome this night. was
It was a
blast.
great stream.
It was a great stream. I don't think we learned if the Quran's scientific, though. I think it seemed to be a big negative.
It's a resounding no, but it was still a great discussion, great debate with Aron Ra. Thanks everybody. I got to work in a few hours, so I got to head out. But great stream, guys. Thanks.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much, James.
Hi, James.
Bye bye. Good night, Peter.
Lovely having. Not only is he the co-pilot here with me, but Gizmo is actually the producer, and I would just sending love to Gizmo and all
the
kitties
producer's
and
taking a
puppies.
nap.
Look, it's hard work. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, James.
Have a good night, guys.
And Mark, we have been Midnight Ranting. You've been with me. I saw it was both of us hanging out, chilling in that debate, trying to figure out if our ears were really listening to what the words that were coming out of his mouth. Nonetheless, I hope you had a fun time. Where can people find you? And is the Quran scientific?
I don't know. I'm around. I'll chuck a link or something in the chat. Whatever. No. Well, I mean, it depends on your definition of scientific, obviously. And as I said, I think I got the wrong thing. I totally agree with you that he brought a knife to a science fight. Basically,
Indeed.
It just was. I was really impressed. I really enjoyed the debate. I thought Aron did fantastic. Like, he was really good, and I think that's the best debate I've ever seen him in. I really liked where he went with it. He didn't get drawn into the semantics and silly stuff that the opponent was doing. He did really well, and I did appreciate his performance tonight. There's nothing scientific about any holy book, really. Not if you're talking about is there things that could be considered science could apply to in those books. Yeah, sure, of course. Science can be applied to almost anything that exists in reality. Sure. Do they use the scientific methods to draw their conclusions? Absolutely not. And as Aron Ra pointed out, it's just an authoritarian designation of a claim, not any kind of scientific demonstration of its veracity. And I think that's my takeaway from it. But I want to really give a big shout out to everybody. Thanks to Mobarak for coming on and talking to us about Islam. Always wonderful. Leo, Peter, I always love your stuff. Thanks to David Neff, Canadian Catholic. I mean, he only dropped in for a sec, but it was good to get a theist on here. I really encourage him to come back if he so desires. Amaretto, I really missed you. I always enjoy talking to you. It's always wonderful. So I really want to say how great it is to see you again. And thanks to James for co-piloting, Gizmo for producing, and of course the lovely Amy who guides us through this theist nightmare that we're currently who supports and makes it such a wonderful time here. Thank you all so much for listening in, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you do want to support the channel. I'd really like to see tons of people coming on with all different opinions, so we can discuss it. It'd be great. So do make sure you do that. But apart from that, thank you so much. I had a blast being here. Really appreciate it.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much, Mark. Yeah, it was one hell of a debate, and I cannot thank you enough for helping me get through. I want to call it apologetics, but I think needs to go back to apologetic class. Sending love, Muhammad. Sending love, of course. But thank you so very much, Mark.
You can only go upwards from here,
Exactly. You can only get better from here. And Peter,
I don't know. You might be surprised. They might find a new low to dip to. You never know.
He could have just came on the entire time and just said, look at the trees. I mean, come on, look at the trees. But Peter, I can honestly, I cannot thank you enough.
Trees.
What's that?
I have trees. I have trees.
Oh, look at them. I mean,
See?
There you go. I mean, how can you not believe in a creator when there are trees right in front of you? Come on now.
We just have to find the lore out.
So
I have, since we're talking about trees, I have to say that we're currently we just had Eunice leave. Eunice obviously was a storm that was announced, and as predicted, she was well, let's say wet and wild. So some of the trees didn't survive. So
yeah, what is with these winds?
less
Like,
trees to look at.
really bad ones here in the United States as well. Like, it's nuts.
But I do have to ask you, Peata, where can people find you? And is the Quran scientific?
No, there's nothing. The only scientific thing about the Quran is how they construct the book and how they put the ink on the paper. That is done using the scientific method because we know how to make books, which we learned over time using the scientific method. So that's the only science that is applied to the Quran. As for where people can find me, I put a link in the side chat. I'm actually really proud that I'm not sure if I'm going to be on this episode, but I'm going to be part of the team that Randolph Richardson and another guy named Taco have surrounded themselves with. And they're going to go on the Politics Discord server where theists can ask us atheists anything. So, and that's one show. So Jefferson Spatchcock is on there, Jail Warren, T-Jump. So being part of that group is actually quite a thing for me. It's an amazing group of people. So and that's going to be this Sunday. I thought I wasn't be able to join, so I said I wouldn't because I need to produce Aron's show, and then Aron told me we're not going to do a show this weekend, so maybe I'll be there. We'll see. Yeah, and other than that, I think Aron was his usual self in the debate, coming with facts, things that he can actually prove, which is pretty much what he always does. The sad thing is that when you're going to watch a debate and the person you're debating doesn't even know what the topic of the debate is, then why even agree to the debate? I mean, you read the topic, so bring the evidence that you think you have for that topic, and it didn't happen, not even close. So yeah, that was sad. But I always like seeing Aron talk to people like that, and hopefully it helped a few people in the chat, because there were quite a lot of Muslims in the chat, I noticed, and maybe they will actually start checking their book. I'm not saying that you just have to discard everything offhand, but fact check your own book and see whether or not it holds merit. That's all we can ask for, and that's pretty much it. The only thing we're asking for. And obviously, I do want to say, and I've said it before, I'm really happy we saw Amaretto again. The world needs a little bit more Amaretto, and I'm glad she joined.
Thank you so very much, Peter. And go check out Aron Ra. Gonna go for it. Go check out Mobarak on Aron Ra's channel. Go check out all the fantastic non-believer content out there, because we don't schism, unlike religious people. So we just kind of chill.
And Randolph Richardson's channel, which is where the show is that I'm hopefully going to be on this Sunday.
Right there. I got Randolph Richardson on screen. I have Mark also pinned up there. We're trying to get him to his 100 so he can get his fancy name and go check out the lovely Randolph Richardson. And that's Randolph with an F, even if the spell check says otherwise. And thank you so very much, Peter. It really, with this after show couldn't have happened, I think, without you. And I cannot just send so much love right your way. You've sent it basically my way back every time. So
well, I mean, all I did was I asked Aron if he would be able to jump on. It's not really. I didn't have anything more power than anyone else.
Like I said, I am still an ex-Jew, but you're both Mensches. And with that, I can't help it. I still use Yiddish. Sometimes you got a little schmutz here. You got to get that off. Nonetheless, I do want to thank all of you. I want to thank both of our non-believers, but our believers, especially. I saw Muslims hanging out in the channel with us. Thank you so very much. It was great to see the back and forth with everyone having a good time. But I do hope you all had a fun time on this episode of Midnight Ranting. Is the Quran a scientific text? We're going to have to check that out. Where we put the holy book in the hot seat for an empirically good time. And I do want to thank my co-host, James W., along with our special guest host, Peter, and the amazing, fantastic, and fabulous Aron Ra, the link of whom will be in the description below, along with our guests, David, Grr, Leophilius, Porpoise, Mark, Mobarak, Amaretto, and Canadian Catholic, as well as the people in chat, our awesome mods who make this stream so great, and of course, lovely viewers like you who make this channel even possible. If you enjoyed the show, please like, follow, or subscribe. And then you get access to that bell icon to be set to all, so you get reminders to join our live streams, or hey, leave a video comment once the video's done, or leave a video once the comment's done. One of those. After the show, we will be heading over to the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server, the link of which should be on screen and chat and all that good stuff in the description below. Lastly, if you would like to help us make even more content, we offer perks for our supporters by checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman. However, we will see you all on the next Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone. Mwah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.